Have you ever seen a vixen who didn't want a man? It can take human form, and it's usually incredibly beautiful. Every man who meets them falls in love with them. Nowadays, the word vixen is used to refer to those evil women who seduce other men, but she kept her body for a man for many years. But what happened? When I found out that discovering my fiancé mocked me mercilessly, mocking me for not wanting to warm the bed with him, and the vixen beside him shows her ugly face. I'm disappointed to leave here. Looking at yourself in the mirror, you do it for that one vixen, treating me like this. Obviously I'm the vixen. He went to the hidden place and changed back to his original form. A passerby saw me and said I was a foxhound. I walked forlornly to the edge of the lake. My inferiority complex was in full swing. Being a fox herself, in human form, she couldn't even keep the one she loved. Icon as a fox is not bad looking, simply be good people pick up. As a pet good, calling, forget it. I never want to be human again. Being human is so tiring. The next moment a dark shadow appeared. What did I think it was? It turned out to be a dog. When I'm glad I'm just a dog, I suddenly remembered that I'm just a fox now. When I'm scared shitless, a hand lifted me up mercilessly. It turned out to be an incredibly handsome man who rescued me. I've never seen a man so cold. The puppy who chased me just now was scared to death of him. Handsome man picks me up and stares at me. At that moment, another beautiful man came by. This beautiful man lifted up my hind leg 0, distinguishing my sex. The fox does not make a move. You think I am Ali? I directly open the claws to rub too. Handsome man turns around with me in his arms and warns him not to touch me. And this beautiful man couldn't believe it. Mustn't. Isn't he a clean freak? Mo Sheng hugged me and got into the car, and the man behind me also waved. Wait for me. I reacted when the handsome man hugged me and was about to get into the car. Having been kidnapped myself and being shown to a man, that's when I started to fight back, but still thrown into the car and brought home. This night how I am so unlucky. Come to Mussen's mansion and so on. I was thrown on the bed in my room. Now what is this? The beautiful man leaned on Mo Sheng's shoulder. You even foxes. But Mo Sheng instructed me to wait here honestly. I'm going to take a shower and then come back. I watched the two leave in disbelief. Was he going to do this and that to me? I jumped up and down in panic. It was too dangerous to be around this man. I had to run away. Over here Mo Sheng was bathing, feeling the touch of the fox he had just hugged. Is that why the mother likes foxes? At this time I was still crawling around clumsily. I kicked a box off as I went along. I just reacted. Did I break something again? I jumped down curiously and looked at the crystals that fell out of the box. For a moment, the crystal emitted a bright light, blinding my fox eyes. But the crystal, with a whoosh, burrowed into my body without my knowledge, and the blood-red birthmark on my face is disappearing. I then turned around curiously, feeling my body so comfortable even my brain is refreshed. Outside the room, Mo Sheng asked, "That fox didn't run away, did it?" The housekeeper was confident that, with the door closed, it would never get away. When Mussen was about to open the door, I was startled for a moment that he was back. I'm rolling from side to side, racking my brain. What to do? What to do? Suddenly, a flash of light. Mo Sheng opened the door and looked at the wreckage, and I slipped quietly behind the door. Mussen was holding the box I had just kicked off, and I had stealthily walked out of the room. The housekeeper looked at the windows. They were all closed properly, so how could they escape? Mo Sheng looked at the box with a grave expression. That dead fox stole my mother's relics. Next time I see her, I'll skin him. And I was already enjoying the air of freedom, transformation into beautiful human beings. Take out your mobile phone and call my handsome brother. A limousine came along in a few moments. When my brother got off the bus, he asked me if I wasn't going to marry Ho Long Ming. I'm aggrieved and blushing. Don't you mention that name to me. I cried out in pain straight away, and my brother calmed me down. What's going on? When I got back to my brother's house, the birthmark on my face was gone. At this time, my brother also brought a cup of hot water. I am aggrieved and weeping, laughing bitterly at my own stupidity and deserving of bad luck. My brother also fully supported my idea. Auntie Ching's residence here. Auntie Ching comforted me with her experience. Just let it all go. Auntie Ching asked me in a low voice if I had ever been married to that heartless man. I blushed, and he and I, until we were established as husband and wife, did not let him touch me. That's why the results fell apart. Auntie Ching was so relieved. Must remember my words. Never feel free to. And I answered yes. I hung up on Auntie Ching, lying lifelessly on his bed. He sighed deeply. But this is also an opportunity for me to pick myself up and start a new life. I opened the window by hand and stopped being a love-brained white guy. Feel the breeze outside the window. I am going to devote my future life to my career, and I let go of my life. I'm going to be a happy little fox. This is a flashback to today's encounter. That handsome man hugged me. That fascinating look. I shook my head. Oh, What does a big handsome guy like that have to do with me? Newspaper building here. I was surprised to ask, to be city on business, and the man also explains the situation in city B someone needs to take over, see if you're willing. I don't hesitate to go. Colleagues came over at this point, discouraging me. I know you feel bad, but there is no need to be like this. I smiled softly. How can it be? For that kind of scum is not worth it. All I want now is to start a new life and let go of my worries. I look at my colleagues seriously. I can't be like this forever. I have to grow up. My colleagues looked at me with curiosity and sensed the difference in me. And the birthmark on her face is gone. What's going on? The roar of an aeroplane. A pair of jade feet appeared. From now on, I'm going to be a firm believer in not being a loser. Then I carried my suitcase up the stairs. Suddenly, I accidentally fell backwards. A man put his arms around me. He looked at me and asked if I was okay, and I looked at him with a pouty face. The handsome man asked me if I was traveling. While I explained my situation, my name is Liushuang. I'm a reporter here on business. Handsome guy also introduced himself. My name is Kikian, and then wanted to give me a lift. Handsome guy tried to take my suitcase, but I refused, and I still have to be careful when I sense something is wrong. Handsome guy still wants to give me a ride. With a smile on my face, I stated that my colleague would come to pick me up. Then I waved and got ready to leave. The bodyguard behind the handsome man got curious and asked why he was interested in me. Handsome explained why. Because the smell of me was important to his family. The bodyguard behind him was confused. How did it mean something special to the Wanchi family? Wani Qian turned around and explained, our family has been celestial masters for generations, and I called my colleague. My colleague couldn't make it to the airport because of the traffic jam. I'll just have to figure it out myself. I'm also convinced that I can't be defeated by a small problem. Open your eyes and see the two men from before. The beautiful man even greeted me, and I pressed my hat and didn't even want to talk to him. I thought to myself, they won't recognize me, and this beautiful man wonders why I just left. His companions laughed at the beautiful man. The companion seriously said that this time we have serious business. You don't mess around. And the beautiful man tried to retort, but was simply told to shut up. I took a taxi at the airport only to find out the driver took a detour. The driver brakes directly, threw down my suitcase, and then they don't want to take me to my destination anymore. I can only curse this black-hearted driver. Cross your arms and sigh deeply. I took out my mobile phone to see if I could call a lift. Not long after, I turned my head and saw the car coming. Wave me over here. Then a little boy came out of the road. The little boy hadn't realized the danger. I just froze. I was going to save my life. Right. I shouted danger and the little boy didn't move a muscle. I rushed to the boy, reaching out for the little boy, pushed the little boy directly in front of the car, and I fell to the ground. Just as the car was about to hit me, a hand suddenly reaches out behind me and tugs at me, and the car braked just in time. It's the man we met at the airport. I looked at him curiously. He asked me if I was hurt, and the beautiful man from before is here too. I tried to say it was okay, but I made a noise of pain. Abrasions on the leg. The gentleman wanted to take me to the hospital. I just want to reject this person who looked at my fox gender before, and one Chikian rejected this Mr. Mu and wanted to deliver me himself. I sighed helplessly. Mr. Mu greeted Wan Chi Qian in a conspiratorial manner. I was told to go to the hospital, and then the two men were at loggerheads, and I'm left awkwardly in the middle. I had no choice but to yell that it was just a scratch. No need to go to the hospital. Then another man came along. He looked at me hard. 2 more steps forward. Stared down at me. He looked at my leg again. He picked me up straight away. I was shocked by the sharp look in his eyes. Mr. Mu watched me being carried to the car at this point and mocked Wanchi, and Wani had no qualms about getting in the car with his suitcase. Mr. Mu, on the other hand, thought that this Wanchi must be up to something. And then the long limousine started up. I'm looking at the scene and I don't know what to do. Wanchikian turned to me and asked me about my wound. Mr. Mushboon was also concerned about me and wanted to rub me down, and he's quietly alone with his book. Just then he looked up at me. Then he asked me if I'd seen me, and I nervously explained what he said. Instead, he stared at me dead in the face and said he'd seen me before. I consoled myself with the thought that he wouldn't be able to tell I was a fox. I ruffled my long hair and calmly retorted his words. He let out a soft ooh and went back to reading his book. I strained to feel the ice and fire surround me. It's not long before we get to the big, fancy hotel where the dudes are staying. Mr. Mu wants to invite in to help me with my leg. I raised my hand to say no, I could take a taxi back myself. And Winky still wants me in the hotel. I had to politely decline and say that I could just put the medicine on myself. I ended up bending over and thanking a few people for their kind words. Then wave and get out of here. Mr. Mu then mocked Wani Qian's dog-licking behavior. As a result, Wan Yiqian left here straight away. Mr. Mu behind him shouted at Wani Qian, "Why are you so concerned about that lady?" Wang Kilian turned his head. looked down at the other man, refusing to answer Mr. Mo. Several people entered the hotel. Mr. Mo then asked him curiously why he suddenly hugged that girl. He raised his hand and felt the familiar scent on it. He must have met before. Mr. Mo was still thinking of keeping me, saying that what he's doing is ungentlemanly. He thinks he's got the hots for me, he's going to chase me, and he knows I'm brilliant, yet he still wants me to stay away from him. That's when I came to my colleague. A man just walked out. A pretty girl called out my name, and then she apologized for not picking me up. I made no pretense of being able to come over myself, and thereupon led me to my room. I rubbed the medicine, sighing again that I've finally stopped. Thinking back to my previous experiences. Touch your face and the birthmark is gone. It's like that's when everything changed. Then pull yourself up under the covers and don't think about it. I've got a lot of work to do tomorrow. The next day I came to the hospital to hand over my work to my seniors. Colleagues teased my senior who was injured due to the interview. Didn't realize that I was a girl. Senpai sighed and said that this is really not suitable for a little girl like me to do. I wondered if he hurt his leg during the interview. I assured Senpai that I'd continue his work. I walked out of the hospital room, thinking that it's hard for an investigator to collude. Suddenly I saw Mo Sheng in the hospital corridor. Mo Sheng greeted me warmly. I greeted him and said it was a coincidence to meet him. Mo Sheng was concerned if I was here for my leg injury. I told him I was here to see a colleague, and that I hadn't settled my score with him yet. I took out a post-it note from my bag and wrote something on it. When he saw me writing, Mo Sheng was very curious, so I hurriedly started to fool him. After I finished writing, I tore it off and asked how the boy was doing. Mo Sheng said he was fine, and the boy wanted to thank me in person. I stuck the note on him. Why don't you do it today? I'm free. Mo Sheng scratched the back of his head. He wanted to go to the beauty's invitation, but he's not free today. He told me to talk about it next time, and left after that. I smiled at him. Let's wait until he's free. I smiled happily when he left. He deserved to die. Suddenly I noticed a familiar figure in front of me. I looked at Mo Sheng in front of me with an embarrassed face. I asked him if he'd seen everything I'd done. Mo Sheng asked me if I hated Mo Sheng. I turned my head and admitted it, and Mo Sheng wondered why. I was speechless for a while. I couldn't say it was because he looked at me there, right? But Mo Sheng waved his hand to me and told me that Mo Sheng could do whatever he wanted. I don't know why, but Mo Sheng always made me feel so nervous. He's got a handsome face, but he's always got a grim attitude. Unfortunately, I'm not a face dog anymore. His beauty doesn't affect me. Thinking about what happened that day, I was angry at the previous offense against me. He was part of it too. I turned my head to look at Mo Sheng's back as he left. I said, I'll have to settle this score with him too. In the corridor of the hospital, Mo Sheng realized that many people were looking at him. In the office, he wondered if he was handsome, but the turnaround rate today was too abnormal. At that moment, a man tore off the note behind him, reminding him that there was something behind him. Seeing the words on the note, Mo Sheng was trembling with anger. He was furious at whoever did this. No wonder the turnover rate is so high today. Thinking about the physical contact with me today, Mo Sheng was so angry that she thought I did it. On the other hand, I also sneezed. Mo Sheng said he finally realized that his vigilance was too low. Mo Sheng was angry with Mo Sheng for not telling him. Mo Sheng asked him if he'd offended me and was trying to get back at him. Mo Sheng was puzzled, but he had never offended a girl. Mo Sheng felt Mo Sheng is not right. He is also too concerned about me. Will not have an idea it. Mo Sheng explained that I saved Nada and helped them a lot. He didn't want me to get into trouble. Mo Sheng said she didn't believe me. I didn't do them any favors. Mo Sheng wondered if Mo Sheng was so interested in me because Wan Chi Qian was concerned about me. Mo Sheng warned Mo Sheng not to touch me, and Mo Sheng hastily agreed. Mo Sheng went to the window and watched my back as I left the hospital. He said I was a cunning little fox at best. On the other side of the company building, I wore a staff member's uniform and lurked inside. I never thought that one day I'd be a reporter and have to go undercover. A rookie like me didn't believe I could find out about my target's dealings. The seniors side, that's what the bosses told them to do. If they don't finish, they'll be fired. I can't help it if it's anywhere else, but it's here. This is the hotel where those guys are staying. What if I meet them? I just hope I don't run into anyone I know. Suddenly someone called out to me. I turned around with a black face. I realized it was Nada, the little boy I'd saved. I touched his head. I wanted to check on him. He wasn't hurt, was he? But Nada said I was a reporter and told me me to get out of here quickly. I wondered how he knew I was a journalist. A group of people came over and dared to send another reporter over. I realized that one boy was injured by them. Nada stood in front of me and told them to stop, but the man grabbed Nada. He told him to leave the kids alone. Then he looked at me and said there was some value in killing a beauty this time. I stared at him very sternly. Then they dragged me to the door of a room. They pushed open the door. He pushed me in violently. I turned into a fox and got rid of the ropes as soon as he closed the door. The man warned me not to play tricks. He could see every move I made. I look around the room and suddenly I see a camera. I don't know what kind of pervert this guy is, putting a camera in the house where he sleeps. They told me to wait until they were done with me. Then the door slammed shut. I thought I'd better not get caught and go into hiding. I went to the door to hear who they were dealing with. Two men came up and said, "Ramsey, we're here." Ramesh opened his arms to welcome them. I heard familiar voices and wondered if they were the same. Then Mo Sheng noticed me and asked if there was anyone else there. I was sure it was him. Mo Sheng said he didn't like people watching his business. Ramesh hastened to deny that it was a kitten he had just caught. I despaired that he was scarier than all the others. Mo Sheng sat down on the sofa and let Ramesh get straight to the point. Ramsey began to ask for prices, but Mo Sheng cut him down. Ramsey laughed bitterly. He thought he was friends with Mo Sheng. Mo Sheng says he has no friends, only enemies and non-enemies. This doesn't sound like a deal. It sounds like a fight. Ramesh started to ask why Mo Sheng came here if he didn't mean it. Ramesh didn't come to trade for him. He came to destroy his peace. At that moment, there was a banging noise outside. I wondered what was going on. Suddenly there was a fight. I hoped I wouldn't die in vain here. At that moment, the door was opened with a clang. I looked at the door in despair. I said, "I don't want to die." Mo Sheng saw me and said it was a coincidence that he met me again. He then took out the note and I was instantly embarrassed. Then he turned to Mo Sheng and asked him if they wanted to kill me to silence me. Tana said it was none of my business and told them to let me go. Mo Sheng then looked at Tana with a stern gaze. When I saw this, I stood up and told him to come at me and not to touch the child. I panicked when he came towards me. "Don't touch me either." Mo Sheng turned around and told me to come with him. I froze in place. Mook Chili reminded me to follow him. I walked out and saw the blood on the floor. I thought there had been a bloody battle. I wondered why the drunkard had acted as if nothing had happened after all the commotion. I thought this place should be under Mo Sheng's control, but who is he to have so much power? At that moment, SS appeared in front of me. He wanted to go to the press station to find me and have lunch with him. I wondered why every time I saw him my body instinctively screamed that it wasn't good. I quickly refused, saying no, he's too generous. I just wanted to run away. Once SS was about to continue but was blocked by Mo Sheng. The two men looked at each other with cold faces. SS said he and I were kindred spirits and asked Mo Sheng to let me go. But Mo Sheng said he didn't make things difficult for me. I went with him of my own free will. I looked at Mo Sheng with an embarrassed face. I was embarrassed and said it was true. Wan Sheng compromised. He didn't force himself. He'll come back to visit me some other day. Mo Sheng then turned his head to me and asked me to follow him. I hurriedly followed the pace of the two. Mo Qingli looked at Wanchi SS in confusion. He didn't understand after I came here. There was something wrong with both Wanchis and Mo Sheng. I'm just a bit prettier, but I'm even more beautiful than before. He wondered if it would come so quickly. I was shocked by Mo Qingli's behavior and Mo Sheng asked him what he was doing. Mo Qingli shook his head. He wouldn't be so distracted by me, would he? They walked to Mo Sheng's limousine. Mo Sheng wondered if I was afraid of SS Wanchi. I'm not afraid, but I think he's dangerous. The limousine drove smoothly on the road. I sat across from Mo Sheng in fear and trepidation. I looked up at him and saw that he was very handsome, with sharp angles. He was handsome in an oriental way, but also deep in a western way. His crystal eyes. Suddenly I froze. He looked at me. I thought, if only he wasn't so cold and scary. Mo Sheng, this time do I know who SS Wanchi is? I looked at him and said I didn't know. He then asked me if I knew who he was. I quickly shook my head and said I didn't know. I'm about to cry. I don't want to know. I'll be silenced. Moxon thinks I'm like a cunning fox. I know how to avoid harm and pretend to be good to confuse my enemies. At that moment, Mo Sheng remembered the time he picked up my fox form. That day he opened the door to find me gone in the house in a mess. Mo Sheng sighed, remembering this unpleasant incident again. Then he introduced me to the Wanky SS family as a financial oligarch. patriarchy. He added that the Wansi family had another profession. They call themselves the Heavenly Masters, the best physiognomists in the world. I was shocked to hear the word Celestial Master. Mo Sheng wondered why I was so sensitive to the word Celestial Master. I hastened to explain that I was thinking that his family's investment had not failed. No wonder I felt strange around him. We're mortal enemies. Mo Sheng said the identity of the Celestial Master, except for the Wanchi SS family. Hearing that, I was shocked. Would I be silenced if I knew this secret? Mo Sheng is now curious as to why Wanki Sheng cares so much about me. I was in despair. It's none of my business. Please let me go. They went back to Mo Sheng's house. I followed them, but I didn't dare say goodbye to him. At that moment, Tana tugged on my coat. I knelt down and thanked him for saving me today, but Tana said he couldn't do anything useful to save me. Mu Qingli said I had the guts to tease him if he knew whose child he was. I was puzzled as to whose child he was. I asked again whose child he really was. Mu Qingli said that Tanaka was one of the purposes of their trip. I wondered if the purpose wasn't Lemisi. He said it wasn't worth it. Then Mu Qingli took Tana into the house, leaving me in doubt. I thought the more I knew, the more dangerous it would be. I had to leave them as soon as possible. But even if I wanted to leave, it seemed difficult. Besides, he knows a lot about me. It's better not to say goodbye to him. Mo Sheng was drinking red wine leisurely at the table. I walked carefully to his side. I thanked him for saving me and wanted to say goodbye to him. Mo Sheng said I thought I had overheard their affair and just let it go. Then he gave me a cold look. I couldn't help but feel that this man was scary. I hastened to explain that I was forced to overhear. Mo Sheng doesn't care what he heard. He only looks at the result. I can't help it. This man is so unkind. What should I do? I asked for a bet with him. Mo Sheng was interested and asked me what kind of bet I wanted to make. If I could escape undetected, he would let me go. Moxang thought my fox-like cunning was showing again, but he agreed and gave me 1 day. If I haven't escaped by tomorrow, I'll be at his mercy. He reminded me that no one has ever escaped from him. I looked at him dumbfounded really. Then Mu Qingli said a fox had escaped the day and he was furious. I laughed. I didn't think it would work so well. Angrily, Mu Sheng looked at Mu Qingli angrily. Then he left, leaving the two of us whispering behind him. Mu Qingli took me away. I wondered if Mushing wasn't eating. Mu Qingli reminded me that Mushing is a germaphobe and doesn't like to eat with others. I looked at Mu Sheng's back as he left. I thought of the day when Mu Sheng picked me up. Sometime later, at the huge dining table, Tana sat next to me and called me sister. Half an hour ago, I was forced to change into new clothes. He heard that I made a bet with Mushing and was curious how I was going to escape. I smiled at him and wanted to ask him to do me a favor. After I told him how to help me, he wondered if he could just go and tell Musin at 2 o'clock. I told him that's all he needed to do. Tana was still wondering if it was a good idea. I told him that it was definitely a good idea and closed the door. Tana was left standing in a daze. Tana couldn't possibly think of a way for me to escape. At 2 o'clock in the evening, Tana knocked on Mo Sheng's door. While knocking, she shouted, "I'm gone." Musin opened the door in surprise and asked Tana what she was talking about. They opened the door to my room and found it empty. Mu Qing left his mouth. "I'm really gone, ah." Mo Sheng asked the housekeeper if he'd checked the security cameras to see if anyone had seen me. At this time, I was using the invisibility function to appear in front of several people. I calmly walked through the middle of them and fooled him twice. At that moment, Mo Sheng looked at me as if he realized something. I turned around and saw him staring at my position. I was horrified. He couldn't have seen me. Was he so sensitive? Seeing this, Mu Qingli wondered if he had found any clues. Mu Qingli looked at the empty space in front of Mo Sheng. Mo Sheng turned back and shook his head, saying nothing. I left in a hurry. I thought he had found it. I suddenly saw that the door to Mo Sheng's room was open. I laughed and wanted to leave him a souvenir. Mu Qingli wondered how I escaped from Mo Sheng's security system. Mo Sheng thought of disappearing in the same way as last time. Mu Qingli reminded Mo Sheng to take a look at his room. There was a big red word "stupid" written on the wall of Mo Sheng's room. Mu Qingli smiled. I've really left him a good gift. At this moment, the butler reminded Mu Qingli to take a look at his own room. Mu Qingli's room had a big red word written on it. Mu Qingli was furious. I'm such an odious woman. At that moment, Mo Sheng said he deserved it and Mu Qingli looked at him angrily. Tana looked up and saw Mushing staring at him. Mo Sheng asked him what I had asked him to do. Tana hurriedly explained that he hadn't done anything. He really didn't lie. He just went to inform Mo Sheng. Mo Sheng said forget it and turned around to leave. Mo Sheng turned around and told the others to find me themselves. Mu Qingli had never seen Mo Sheng paying so much attention to anyone. Suddenly, he laughed obscenely as Mo Sheng in love with his first love. I quickly ran outside, panting and lamenting that I finally came back. I realized that Wang Boyi must know something. I had to find him. At that moment, a group of people came towards me and shouted my name. My colleagues said I was finally back. They asked me if I was alright, and why I had interviewed them so far. I told them I was fine and that I had made them worry. Colleagues laughed, and Wonsikian was so worried that he was about to call the police. Wonsikian called me. I was scared and backed away, but my colleague pushed me in front of him and told me to thank him. Then she dragged the others away and told us to talk. I was left embarrassed in front of him. Wanchis asked me if I was afraid of him. I quickly argued. How could I be afraid of him? Wonchikian was adamant that I was afraid of him and asked me why. I hastily found an excuse and said goodbye, ready to leave. Wanyikian looked at me with complicated eyes. He opened his mouth to remind me to be careful of Mo Sheng. I was puzzled and asked what he was talking about. Wanyikian wanted to remind me to stay away from Mo Sheng. He doesn't want me to get involved. At that moment, I remembered that we who clan have a body that attracts heavenly thunder, so I told Wanchikian that I don't believe in fate. When he heard my words, Wanchikian looked at me with a shocked face. I'll continue. I'll try my best to change my so-called destiny. At this moment, Mo Sheng was hiding in the corner, listening to our conversation. I don't want a person to be defined by someone else's destiny. Hearing my words, Mo Sheng was surprised for a moment. After a while, Mo Sheng sat alone on a bench. He lit a cigarette and began to remember the past. When he was a child, someone told his family that he was destined to be a loner. His mother gave him a precious stone to change his fate. Then I remembered what I said about man's destiny. Mo Sheng laughed, feeling that this matter was interesting. On the other hand, I was lying in bed sleeping. Suddenly I heard a rustling sound from outside the window. I rolled over in a daze. I slowly opened my eyes. To my surprise, I saw Mo Sheng standing in front of me. Mo Sheng was sitting beside me. I asked him where he came from. I asked if I didn't believe in fate. I wondered if he had overheard our conversation. I told him that my parents had changed their fate and survived. Musin was curious about what happened to my parents. It's my personal business. I don't want to tell him, but Mo Sheng was staring at me, and the room suddenly went quiet. Mo Sheng said he wanted to talk about the business. I hurriedly covered my ears and said I didn't want to know. It would kill me. But Mo Sheng suddenly stared at me. He broke my hand easily. He wanted me to be his companion. I didn't understand and asked him what he was talking about. He said he wanted me to stay with him and asked me if I didn't understand. I was angry at him for picking me up in such a strange way. It would have been simpler to say he wanted me to be his woman, but Mo Sheng said that I was wrong. He just wanted me to stay with him. When I heard that, I looked at him with anger. I told him I'd go back soon and wouldn't stay with him. Mo Sheng asked me if I wanted to go back to that scumbag Ho Lon Ming. I asked Mo Sheng how dare he investigate me. Mo Sheng said he had never failed to get what he wanted. At that moment, there were a few knocks on the door. My colleague asked me if I was on the phone. I warned Mo Sheng to leave, or I'd call the police on him, but Moxon grabbed my hand when I tried to open the door. I asked him what he wanted, but he said he was here to open the door. He put his arm around my waist and opened the door. When the door opened, my colleague wanted to call out my name. I saw Mo Sheng hugging and kissing me. My colleague looked at the scene with embarrassment. My colleague wondered what was going on. Was she leaving? He knocked on the door. He saw Mo Sheng kissing me with his arms around me and left in embarrassment. After He left, I pushed Mo Sheng away and asked him what he was doing. Mo Sheng replied carelessly, "It's a lot of trouble to explain. It's easy to clear the room." I was puzzled and asked him what he was clearing up. At that moment, Mo Sheng felt something strange outside the room. He picked me up and left. I kept struggling and asked him what he was doing. Mo Sheng carried me to the window. I was scared. I didn't want to die with him. Musin got tired of me talking and told me to be quiet. Suddenly, there was a banging on the door. Without hesitation, Mo Sheng jumped out of the window with me in his arms. I was so scared that I screamed. The door was kicked in from the outside. Mo Sheng landed safely in a handsome position. The killer shouted from upstairs, "Go after him!" Mo Sheng ran away with me in his arms. I asked Mo Sheng why someone was chasing him. We were out of breath. Mo Sheng in a corner stopped. I gasped for air and asked the gang was coming at him. Right. Mo Sheng did not answer my question, but took out a small and exquisite pistol. I looked at the gun in my hand, which I had never used before, and was shocked. Mo Sheng turned his head and challenged the killers behind him. Then he protects me behind him in a domineering manner. The leader of the gang, Blackie, said he wanted to kill Mo Sheng and me together. My heart sank. So Mo Sheng was trying to protect me. I was the one who got him into trouble. At this moment, the killers were screaming that none of them could escape. Blackie raised his pistol and shouted that he wanted to kill everyone involved in the deal. Mo Sheng pulled me into a corner. The bullet hit the wall and we escaped. Before the killers came, Mo Sheng held me in his arms and told me to run to the east. After saying that, he pushed me into the distance with a slap of his hand. I looked back at Mo Sheng with a mixed feeling in my heart. He is the one who cares about me. I quickly ran towards the east. Mo Sheng looked at me with a sneer as I ran away. I desperately ran forward. I couldn't drag him down. At that moment, several assassins surrounded Mo Sheng. I stopped in my tracks. I looked at Mo Sheng with determination, determined to save him. The killers surrounded Mo Sheng and beat him with iron bars. Mo Sheng went up and hit him with an electric cannon. When Blackie saw his men were outmatched, he launched a sneak attack. Mo Sheng, who was fighting with all his might, didn't notice his back. The men were shocked when they saw an unknown object crashing into Blackie, who was shooting. The killers looked around and saw no one. Mo Sheng thought Mo Qingli was coming to support him, but someone was approaching with a knife. At the critical moment, I used a set of girls' Mo Kung Fu to beat the killers to tears. The assassin was shivering and firing his gun. Mo Sheng took the opportunity to kick the assassin away. The assassin's face was bruised and swollen. Mo Qingli rushed over with his man. The killer ran away when he saw the reinforcements coming. Mo Qingli went up and asked Mo Sheng if she was alright. Mo Sheng wiped the corner of his mouth and said he was fine, and asked Mo Qingli if he saw me. Mo Qingli asked Mo Sheng if he hadn't gone to look for me. Mo Sheng was silent for a moment and replied in a cold voice, "He told me to run to the east." Mo Sheng, who was injured in the shoulder, ordered his men to find me. Mo Qingli held Mo Sheng, who was about to fall down. Mo Sheng was adamant Mo Qingli should find me, but Mo Qingli ordered his men to throw Mo Sheng into the car. Mo Sheng shouted and refused to get in the car. His men stood still and didn't dare to come forward. Mo Qingli angrily yelled at his men for not having the guts to do anything to Mo Sheng. Mo Qingli forced Mo Sheng onto his shoulders despite his resistance. Mo Sheng cursed and told Mo Qingli to wait and settle the score later. I covered my injured arm and walked with difficulty. The wound on my arm was bleeding and my consciousness was fuzzy, but I knew I couldn't stop. If someone found me like this, I wouldn't be able to tell the truth. Luckily it was only my arm, but if it had been more, I would have been dead. As I walked, my pace became heavier. Just as I was about to faint, a man came in my direction. It was Wan Yiqian. Wan Yiqian quickly held me up. Wan Yiqian looked at me with a feeling I couldn't describe. Wan Yiqian put me down to check my wounds and then took me home. Sunny afternoon. When I opened my eyes, I looked at my surroundings, which were unfamiliar to me. I thought to myself, where is this place? At that moment, Wan Yiqian came from afar. I was shocked to see Wan Yiqian, who told me not to get the treated gunshot wound wet. I wondered if Wan Yiqian had saved me. Wan Yiqian smiled and told me he didn't take advantage of the situation. The clothes were changed. I shyly lowered my head and thanked Wan Yiqian. As he poured the water, he reminded me to believe in life. Stay away from Mo Sheng. I took the glass of water and asked Wan Yiqian if he had calculated Mo Sheng's destiny. Wan Yiqian was deep in thought. Wan Qi told me seriously that the person who calculated Mo Sheng's destiny was a senior member. The Wani family is famous for being physiognomists, but they also have another identity. When I heard it, I felt bad and wondered what it was. Wan Yiqian said with a smile on his face. Wan Yiqian thought that there are fewer demons recently. That's why the Wani family hid their identity as celestial masters. I didn't dare to look up. I was shivering with my glass of water. I kept repeating Wan Yiqian's words in my head. I'm a rare demon. I then adjusted my mind and replied, Mr. Wan Qi, why are you saying this to me? Wan Qian said, we are destined for 3 lifetimes. When I heard that, I sucked in a breath of cold air. I kept shaking my head thinking, no way. Wan Yiqian close to me sniffed, said I have a familiar faint smell. Seeing that his purpose was achieved, Wan Qian turned around and walked out of the room. I was stupefied. Was it that familiar? In the hospital, Mo Sheng woke up and started looking for someone. Mu Qingli pressed Mo Sheng's shoulder to stop him from getting out of bed. Mo Sheng ignored his injuries and grabbed Mu Qingli and asked him where I was. Mu Qingli told Mo Sheng in a cold manner, don't look for people like me who run away. Mo Sheng sat back on the bed and tilted his head to the side. Mu Qingli pressed Mo Sheng onto the bed and asked why Mo Sheng called your men. Mo Sheng lay on the bed and asked if the killer had left any survivors. Mo Sheng recalled yesterday's events and felt something was wrong. Obviously feel behind someone pointing a gun at himself, but that person did not shoot. Mo Sheng was determined to find out who was helping him. The sound of footsteps coming from the hospital corridor. Mu Qingli asked the nurse what she was doing here. The nurse replied that she wanted to take Mo Sheng's blood pressure. Mo Sheng was busy. Mu Qingli asked the nurse to come back later. Inside the hospital room, Mo Sheng was interrogating the killer. What happened at that time? The swollen and bruised killer didn't know what happened. Mo Sheng sat on the bed with a cold face and asked the killer if he had done anything to me. The assassin recalled that he wanted to make a move on me yesterday, but somehow I disappeared. After hearing this, Mo Sheng was deep in thought and thought that my identity was by no means simple. When I woke up the next day, I wanted to leave quietly. Wan Yiqian was worried about my injuries. He asked me where I was going. I didn't want to bother him anymore, so I left. Wan Yiqian was uneasy and insisted on taking me back to my place and then to the Hilton Hotel. At this time, the Hilton Hotel has pulled up a cordon, and the hat uncle watchman. I was shocked what happened at the hotel. I was ready to go forward to ask when the police stopped, claiming that the police are working on. I took out my work card and asked the police uncle, what happened here? The policeman looked at the card and told me that the manager had been killed. I thought to myself, how can I find out what happened to the manager? I apologized and told him I couldn't help him as he was new to the job. I turned around and left to ask Boyd why he put me in such a dangerous place. When I came out of the hotel, I saw Mr. Wan Ho on the phone. When I got closer, I found Mr. Manchi's face was heavy. I've never seen Mr. Wanchi with such a scary expression. I wondered what's wrong with Mr. Manchi. Mr. Manson's father is seriously ill. I urged Mr. Wanchi to go home and leave me alone. Wanchi's chin then said that I was the person he was destined for 3 lifetimes. Mr. Wani told me that the sudden illness of a Wani family member is usually a leakage of secrets. I was deep in thought. The Celestial Master family also has its own troubles. When Wani Qian saw that I was lost in thought, he directly embraced me and kissed me. I pushed Wan Shiqian away. I asked Wan Yiqian why he kissed me for no reason. Aren't you worried about your father's illness? Wan Yiqian turned around and left, telling me to call him if I needed anything. Wan Yiqian drove off into the distance. I stood in the same place and deeply sighed that Wan Yiqian is really a strange person. In the bustling hospital, Wang Boyi secretly pushed open the door of the ward and prepared to run away. I appeared in front of him in time. I asked Wang Boyi where he was going. Wang Boyi was surprised that I was okay. Instead of answering his question, I approached him and asked him questions. Wang Boyi was in a cold sweat when he saw that things were getting out of hand. I wanted to ask him a few questions, but he confessed all of a sudden. I recorded Wang Boyi's words and will find a suitable opportunity to talk to him again. Wang Boyi was in a hurry to explain that he had no choice but to come forward to grab the evidence. Mu Qingli suddenly appeared and grabbed Wang Boyi's shoulder. He asked Wang Boyi if he still wanted to destroy the evidence. I was curious to know why Mu Qingli was here. Mu Qingli said he was asked by Mo Sheng to help me. Mu Qingli was angry that a woman like me who ran away from the battlefield wasn't worth saving. Mo Sheng appeared at the critical moment. Mu Qingli asked Mo Sheng why he came. Mo Sheng ignored Mu Qingli and walked up and grabbed my arm. I let out an ouch of pain, and Mo Sheng anxiously asked me how I got hurt. I was angry and disliked him because I was injured when I was on the run. run. When Mo Sheng saw this, he dragged me out of the room. He knew I didn't run away. I was confused. How did he know? Outside the hospital, Mo Sheng thanked me for my unfailing love and affection. I was confused. When did I show him love? Mo Sheng confidently said in return, I will be his woman for the rest of my life. The more I heard, the more ridiculous I felt. I wasn't excited by his words. I was shocked by his logic. When Mo Sheng saw my fierce reaction, he thought that it was because he hadn't given enough. Then he took me into his arms in an overbearing manner. Mo Sheng thought there was no woman he couldn't handle, and then kissed me directly. Mo Sheng embraced me and kissed me. I pushed him away and raised my hand to hit him. Mo Sheng was quick to grab my hand. Mo Sheng told me that he knew my origin was not simple, but no matter what my origin was, my heart sank. I wondered if he knew anything. I asked him if he wasn't afraid that I was strange and would get him killed. Mo Sheng looked at me with disdain. He's a famous ghost. I'm not capable of hurting him. I was so angry, I couldn't tell him how to get back at him. When Mo Sheng saw that I had nothing to say, he hugged his shoulders and asked me. I tilted my head to the side and replied, You're a terrible kisser. Mo Sheng heard this and asked me again in anger and shame. What did I say? I replied to him word for word that a big man's kissing skills are so bad. It's really embarrassing. Mo Sheng was furious and said he was not as experienced as me. I pretended to be innocent and laughed at him for being an inexperienced virgin. Mo Sheng, such a proud man, left me waiting and left in anger. I looked at Mo Sheng's gray back and burst out laughing. I didn't think he was still so innocent. I was in a happy mood, jumping and ready to leave. Forget it. Two men in black blocked my way. They took me straight to the hospital. I struggled. The men in black indifferently told me that Mo Sheng wanted me to get well. Inside the hospital, Mo Sheng stared at Mo Qingli, who was changing girlfriends like clothes. Mo Qingli was complaining that Mo Sheng didn't take care of his injuries and came back so late. Mo Sheng yells at Mo Qingli in a low voice. He's had many girlfriends. Mo Sheng asked Mo Qingli seriously how he usually interacts with women. Mo Qingli's face was confident. He didn't talk about relationships with women, he just played around. Mo Qingli was puzzled by Mo Sheng's sudden question, and Mo Sheng's inner frustration. Mo Qingli listened to the confused feeling Mo Sheng met me, became more and more strange. I sat on the hospital bed, was very angry with Mo Sheng forced me to stay to recuperate. With a clang, the door was suddenly pushed open. Nada walks in with a man in a suit. The man came forward and shook my hand and introduced himself as Nada's father, Lair. I politely replied, You're welcome. I gently stroked Nada's head and said as long as the child is fine. Leroy sent Tana away. He and I needed to talk about something alone. I was deep in thought. What did Leroy want to tell me when he sent Tana away? I came to the airport and looked around. A man came up to me and asked if my name was Liushuang. I told him my name was Liushuang. He told me to follow him. The man walked over to a group of people and said, I'm here. I wanted to ask him a question. The man asked if I was Liushuang and introduced himself as Heng. Wan Chiqian told him to wait for me here and I thanked him for that. He understood why Wan Chiqian was so attached to me. I turned out to be a great beauty. After saying that, Heng turned around and left, asking me to follow him. I wondered why so many people were calling me beautiful lately. Even he said so. At that moment I looked up and saw myself in the airport mirror. I was surprised that I was so beautiful before. I realized it seemed like it all started then. The jewelry from Musin's house was drilled into my body. That's when I heard someone calling my name. I saw Heng waiting for me at the boarding gate. I awkwardly waved my hand to him. I'll be right there. We boarded the plane one by one. The plane took off smoothly. I thought to myself that I can finally go home. Auntie Qing must be alright. At this time, the subordinate came to tell Heng Mo Xiang was looking for important women. Hearing this, I silently lowered my head. Heng became interested and asked the subordinate to check out the woman. After hearing this, the servant turned around and left. Heng was curious as to how I met Wan Chiqian. I answered honestly how we met at the airport. Heng was puzzled. Wan Chiqian is obviously a person who refuses to be seen by others. Heng was puzzled as to what kind of relationship the two of us had in the end. I told him to ask Wan Yiqian himself about this. After that I told him that I was tired and wanted to take a rest. Heng laughed. I'm really a cunning girl. In the waiting hall of the airport, the staff explained to Mo Sheng. Mo Sheng seems to have realized something. Monitoring and shielding area. Could it be? Mo Sheng asked his his subordinates to prepare a plane. He will go to S City in the morning. After saying that, Mo Sheng meaningfully silent for a while. Mo Sheng said he will definitely catch me in the S City airport. I thanked Yuanhang and said goodbye. Yuanhang handed me his business card and said I could call him if I needed anything here. I mischievously joked to him to take his card to make money. Yuanhang laughed. No matter what I do, he will get it back from Wan Qian. I was helpless. Messing with the heavenly master would be too much. He seemed to know my weaknesses. I told him that he's really a dark-hearted person. I said goodbye to him again and turned to leave. Yuanhang had a grim look on his face and told his subordinates to follow me. I arrived at Auntie Qing's place. Auntie Oat said she had called the police but said it was hard to judge the situation. I wondered what someone was looking for in the house, but Oat J was very surprised. I said I knew Auntie Qing's habits and where she kept her things. Oat Ja said there was a phone call threatening that Auntie Qing could not be protected. The caller also told me to take care of the matter myself. I realized that Auntie Qing's only danger was me. Was she coming for me? I asked her. She said where the deal was. At that moment, Han Choyue pushed open the door and started questioning me. He didn't tell me anything. Do I still have him in my eyes? I looked at him with embarrassment. It seemed like I really needed his help this time. I told OJ to hurry up and tell me where the deal was. OJ sighed and said tonight at 10 o'clock at 13 Jiangning Road. I asked Han Choyue if he could get night vision goggles to see in the dark. I told him to let the lights go out for 10 seconds after I entered the room. Han Choyue wondered if my method was reliable and if 10 seconds was enough. I told him not to worry, just listen to me. In the evening, we arrived at the agreed-upon meeting place on time. Han Choyue told me to signal him if I felt something was wrong. His men were nearby. I hid a dagger in my sleeve. I told him to cut off the power in 5 minutes, and to do it again because there was a spare one. I let out a deep breath and walked towards the house. I wondered who kidnapped Auntie Qing and who was in the house. Just as I reached the door was opened from the inside. I looked at the person who opened the door with surprise. The person who opened the door was an old man who was blind in one eye. The old man looked at me and asked me to follow him. I thought for a while where I was. Then I raised my foot and followed the blind old man. When I got to the front, the old man opened a door and let me in. I looked at the person inside with surprise. A woman in red was sitting leisurely on a sofa surrounded by a group of people. On the other side of the building, the subordinate was introducing my identity and the purpose of my visit to Yuanhang in detail. Yuanhang wondered how an ordinary reporter like me could be surrounded by two big shots. Both of them have seen the world before. Is there something special about me? At this time, the subordinate reminded him that I had escaped from Mo Sheng's side twice before. Hearing this, Yuanhang became interested and asked them to find me out. On the other side, inside the house at No 13 Jiangning Road, the woman in red said I look great now. No wonder he Langming changed his mind. I was impatient. I haven't seen him since that day. How can he change his mind? The woman in red stood up and walked towards me, telling me not to play dumb. She scolded me and told me that if it wasn't for me, he wouldn't have left her. When she heard I was looking for Auntie Qing, she laughed and said she'd killed her long ago, until the woman in red said that Auntie Qing had said one thing before she died. I laughed and realized she was lying. Auntie Qing never called me that. The woman in red didn't care. She'd achieved her goal if I came. I was speechless. How could she treasure such a lousy man as Ho Long Ming? I asked him if he didn't feel cheap for going to such lengths for a man. 5 minutes had come and gone. I let the dagger out of my sleeve. After a hullabaloo, several people rushed to switch on the backup power supply. The bodyguards looked at me and the woman in red with surprise, only to see me putting the dagger against the woman in red's neck. I warned her not to move. If my hand shook, she'd be lost. The woman in red started to use her father's identity to pressure me. The woman in red panicked and told me that she left only a letter at the scene when she went there. I realized that this was indeed Auntie Qing's style of doing things, but I said I didn't believe her and started to lie to her. She said the letter was on her body. I laughed and pulled the letter out of her. She realized I was lying to her. I violently pushed her away. Such a stupid woman should be locked up by Ho Lang Ming. The woman in red turned to me and told me to wait. Before she could finish her sentence, I gradually disappeared from her face. The woman in red watched in horror as I disappeared in front of her. She shouted ghost. I plucked up the courage to ask Mo Sheng if he loved me. When he heard my question, Mo Sheng was stunned. After a moment's hesitation, he replied that he didn't love me. I was extremely shocked to hear him say he didn't love me. Mo Sheng, you don't love, you still say what you want me. A scum. Mo Sheng saw me resisting. Domineering, said I was his person. I looked at him with a speechless face. A gunshot suddenly came from outside the door. Mo Sheng got up and told me to wait for him in the house. Warned me not to try to escape. The airport station are guarded. Said turned and left. After Mo Sheng left, I pondered what was going on outside. My phone suddenly rang. I picked it up and asked Xiaojia what was wrong. I heard Xiaojia say that Auntie Qing had disappeared. When I heard that, I rushed to get my clothes. Xiaojia told me that she told me to find Auntie Qing in person, and that she was worried. I hung up the phone and rushed out. I had to go this time. I had to go no matter what, even Mo Sheng couldn't stop me. Just as I was walking out of the corridor, a fierce man blocked my way. He turned round and asked me if I was Mo Sheng's woman. When I saw him pull out his gun, I immediately understood and explained that I was Mo Sheng's enemy. The man shot at me and I dodged. I managed to escape. I thought, the villa is full of enemies, where's Mo Sheng and his man? I walked out of the villa. I saw a large group of people at the entrance. Leroy laughed and said, the one who backstabbed you is the one who's on your pillow. At the same time, Fiona took out a tape recorder. She played the contents of the tape recorder. I hid in the dark and listened to Wang Boyi's voice in the tape recorder and was a little angry. After listening to the recording, I strolled towards the crowd. I opened my mouth and asked, is it so easy to plant evidence? When Leroy saw me coming, he immediately stepped forward to make up for it. I looked at Mo Sheng with disdain and asked if I believed him. Musin didn't answer, but was angry at me for coming out. I was angry at him when I heard Musin's words. I broke out in a cold sweat and thought. FIA looked at us with jealousy and threatened Mo Sheng with her hands across her chest. Mo Sheng revealed a strange smile. Lek was shocked when he saw it. Then he realized that Mu Qingli wasn't there. Mu Qingli is always with Mo Sheng. Luckily, he thought there must be a trick. Then he shouted, go, let's go. There was a crackling sound around the villa. At that moment, a bullet flew at me and Mu Sheng quickly pushed me away. Mustn't let me go. Mo Sheng jerked his gun and said, he's capable of winning the war. I got nervous and wanted to help him. Mosin stopped me from talking. He didn't want people to know I was invisible. At this time my men came to tell Mo Sheng that the villa had been cleared. Mo Sheng coldly told him to protect me. After that, Mosin walked straight out. I was worried about Mo Sheng's safety and asked my men to help him. He told me they were wearing bulletproof vests. My men refused to leave, thinking I'd be a burden to them. Then I whispered to my men to protect Mo Sheng. When my men heard what I said, they were confused. When they looked back, they realized I'd disappeared. I ran down the road, out of breath. I stopped to catch my breath. At that moment I saw a taxi. I waved it down. I got in and told the driver to drive to the airport. I was worried about Mo Sheng's safety. Suddenly, I remembered that Mo Sheng said his men were guarding the airport. I thought about how to avoid his eyes. Looking for a way out, I saw Wanchek's mobile phone number. In the large villa, Wan Chiqian was lying in bed, dreaming. The housekeeper brought the phone to Wan Yiqian. Wan Yiqian answered the phone in a daze. I nervously said, excuse me. When Wan Chiqian heard my voice, he was instantly refreshed. Wan Chiqian was happy that I took the initiative to call him. I awkwardly asked him about his father's illness. I asked for Wan Yiqian's help. Wan Yiqian generously said, what kind of help? When I heard Wan Yiqian call me a little fox, I panicked. It's not true. Wan Yiqian knew I was a fox. I was in a cold sweat. After I got mad, I asked Wan Yiqian to arrange a safe passage for me to go home. Manjiqian quickly agreed. I was puzzled and asked, you didn't even ask what happened. Wang Qian laughed and said that if I asked him, he would do it without asking why. I whispered back a thank you. Then I hung up the phone. Although you're very nice, I'm still afraid of you, my natural enemy. The sixth sense of the fox tribe tells me Wan Chiqian is hiding something. The battle outside the villa has been won or lost. Mu Qingli is leading the men to clean up the battlefield. Outnumbered, FIA chose to commit suicide. Mu Qingli told his men to take care of Lurch, who was captured alive. Mo Sheng sat on the sofa with a blank face and asked his guards where I was. When the guards said they didn't know, Mo Sheng calmly asked them to leave. Mo Sheng was furious that Mo Sheng was still thinking about me. Mo Sheng suspected. Mo Sheng is convinced that it's not. Mo Sheng said coldly to Mo Sheng, I risked my life to save him last time. Mo Sheng didn't believe me and questioned the security. Mo Sheng replied that he knew how I escaped. Mo Sheng sighed and said that Mo Sheng was obsessed by me. The car was traveling on the road. I was worried about Mo Sheng's safety. I picked up my mobile phone to call Mo Sheng, but found there was no number for him. I was embarrassed that I hadn't heard from Mo Sheng after all this time. As I was staring at the phone in my hand, it rang. I was in a cold sweat. I calmed down and picked up the phone. Mo Sheng on the other end of the line was very upset and asked me where I was. I was so relieved to hear Mo Sheng's voice. He said, I'm sorry, I have to go. Mo Sheng told me to come back. He was doing something for me. I replied in a cold voice that it was important and I had to go in person. Since you're calling, let's make it clear. I don't like to be kept in captivity, not even if I have a lot of money. After all, we're not from the same world. Goodbye. When I hung up, I felt a little lonely. Mo Sheng was dumbfounded when he heard it. When they were about to be passionate, Liushuang asked him, do you love me? Mo Sheng looked at Liushuang but didn't say anything. And then I said I didn't love you. This makes Liushuang very unhappy. Do not love me and you still say what want me. What do you take me for? As a result, Mo Sheng said you're my man, and then was called a psychopath. But then there was gunfire outside the door. Mo Sheng got up and stayed in the house waiting for me. She asked about what happened. Just as he was about to leave, Mo Sheng turned his head. Don't think of escaping. The airport station is guarded by my men. It left her speechless. The sound of a mobile phone dinged and she was drawn to the sound. Then he picked up the phone. What's wrong with Xinjia? Slow down. Auntie Ching, she's disappeared. She picked up her clothes. How long has she been missing? Didn't you ask me to check on Auntie Ching from time to time? I haven't seen her here lately and couldn't get in touch with her. But I found. The message said for you to come back within 24 hours and go to Auntie Ching in person. I think this could be some kind of trap bait. I know. I'll be back soon. Wait for me. After that, I walked downstairs. This time I have to go no matter what, even if Mo Sheng stops me. But then again, the gunshots just now are. Just as Quicksilver walked down the stairs, I saw a man with a gun standing there. He turned his head to look at Liushuang. You are Mo Sheng's woman. Then he pointed the gun at Drifter, and she tried to retort. You've got the wrong guy. I've got nothing to do with him. Before I could finish my sentence, the man on the other side opened fire. Luckily, I was able to dodge quickly. I'll turn the corner and get out of here. I thought, what's going on here? Where are the people in the villa? Where's Mo Sheng? Where are all the security servants? Just as I was running out, I saw someone up ahead, and Mo Sheng is surrounded. The old man scoffed. How about that? Didn't you realize that it's your pillow that ultimately betrays you? FIA took the recording. Listen to this one. Liushuang told me the way to break through the electronic security system of Mo Sheng's villa, and it was through that breakthrough that she was able to escape silently last time. I heard this voice is Wang Boy. He and I is how much hatred has been harming me, but unfortunately he does not know. Mo Sheng already know that I am using stealth ability to escape. I walked in here slowly. I look at this vicious woman. I heard my name mentioned. It's not good to plant evidence so casually. This FIA's dad wants to keep planting evidence. Miss Yun is here. I'm just in time to thank you face to face for your help to us. I looked at Mo Sheng who was beside me. You don't really believe this gentleman's nonsense, do you? Mo Sheng responded with a look of displeasure. Didn't I tell you to wait for me in the house? I've just realized that you've got a problem with me coming out without permission. This wicked woman said, Mo Sheng, if you change your mind now, I'll convince my father to forgive you, because I still love you. But Mo Sheng had a sneer on his face, and that's when FIA's dad realized what was going on. Then look at the others. No! Where did that Mo Sheng go? In front of the villa. The crowd is gathered here. Mo Sheng has always been his right-hand man, but he's not by his side at such an important moment. There must be a trick. Then he immediately sent his men forward to make it quick. A few shots later, Mo Sheng's got my back. He wants me to go first, but I'm involved in this too. How can I leave without you? I'm not so useless that I'll lose everything because of a woman. But I can help you. Mo Sheng told me to keep my voice down, not to let anyone know you can do stealth. The security guards are dragging a man over here. Young master, the villa has been cleaned. Then he asked the security guard to protect her, and Mo Sheng can leave here to kill the others. I don't trust him. I want the security guards to go and help him. I don't need anyone to protect me. We're wearing bulletproof vests. Don't worry, I'll only be a burden to him if I stay here. I'd better leave as soon as possible, so he can still give it a go. Please protect Mussen when you're finished. I disappeared. The guard turned his head curiously. It's empty behind me. The security guards have completely lost sight of me. I took the opportunity to get out of here, gasping for air. I saw a taxi approaching and I waved. Get ready for the airport. I looked back. I don't know how he is now. With his strength he should be fine. I'd better take care of myself first. Auntie Ching mustn't have any accident. By the way, Mo Sheng said the airport and station are guarded by his men. I won't be caught by him when I get there. Right. What do we do? What's the best way to get around him? I looked at Wanky's mobile number on my phone, so he called the number. Ring, ring, ring. At this time, Wan Yiqian was still sleeping. A butler came over. Young master, there's a call for you. Wan Yiqian picks up the phone. Hello. Well, I'm sorry to bother you so late. Thriftfrost's voice came from the phone. He then sat up. I'm so glad you took the initiative to call me. How are things at your house? How is your father doing? Wang Kankan is overjoyed. Are you caring about me? Actually, I'm calling to ask you a favor. Wan Yiqian seems to know who I am. Say it. Little fox. What do you want me to do? I'm very embarrassed. Little fox. But I don't know how to answer. The same name from his mouth is just different from Mo Sheng's mouth. He is a celestial master. Does he know my identity? I laughed awkwardly, just to ask if you could arrange a safe passage for me to get home. I'm being pestered by some somewhat dangerous people. Okay. Wan Yiqian immediately agreed to help you arrange. You first rush to the airport. At the airport, someone will naturally take you to go. I can't believe it either. Aren't you gonna ask me what happened? As long as it's your request, I'll do it for you. You don't have to tell me why. I was embarrassed and said thank you, and then I hung up. Although you're very nice, I'm still afraid of you. After all, we're natural enemies. Not only, but also. Is it the sixth sense of the foxes? I always feel that this man is hiding something outside the villa. It's almost cleaned up. Mu Qingli also appeared at this time, having been assigned something else earlier. In the end, FIA killed herself. Don't get LaRue killed, or we'll have a hard time with old Thorstein. The security guard also came to Mo Sheng to report the situation. I'm sorry, I don't know when Mission Liushuang disappeared. I know, it's out of your hands. Mu Qingli walked over. You still miss that woman. This is the second time, and maybe the security of the villa was really revealed by her. It certainly wasn't her. Mo Sheng stood up. She didn't leave me behind last time. She risked her life to come back and help me. What about security? If she didn't know everything about security here, how did she escape without leaving a trace last time? Mussen also explained that I knew the way she escaped had nothing to do with the security of the house. Qingli sighed. I think you're just lost to her, and I'm still in the taxi. I wonder how Mussen is doing now. Should I call and ask? By the way, I don't have his number. I almost did that, and I didn't even leave his number. There was a phone call just then. I'll pick up the phone. He's talking about where you are. I was relieved. It was Mussen. Looks like he's okay. I'm sorry. I have some errands to run, so I'll leave you to it. Mo Sheng is still doing what he wants. I'll send someone to do it for you. I can't do that. It's important. I have to be there. Since you're calling, let's be clear with you. You've made it clear that you don't love me anymore. So please leave me alone. And I don't like being kept at home. Not even with how rich you are. We're not from the same world. After saying that, he hung up the phone. Bye-bye. He tried to keep talking, but he was already hung up on. I just got to the airport. Then a handsome man came over. Hello. Is this Miss Yun Liushuang? This way. Please. Handsome man guided me out. I heard the man say, Sir, they're here. I'm coming this way. Please. You're Yun Liushuang. This man is looking at me with his glasses on. He stood up. Hello. My name is Xianyuan Heng. Wan Qian asked me to wait for you here. Thank you. I'm sorry for your trouble this time. Xianyuan Heng looked at me. No wonder Wan Qian was so taken with me. It turns out to be an absolute beauty. Come with me. I've been called beautiful lately, even by such a magnificent gentleman. But I'm not. Look at yourself in the mirror. Have I ever looked this good before? That's when everything changed. That's when Mussen grabbed me, and then some kind of energy went into my body. While I was still in a daze, I heard Miss Cloud. What's wrong with you? Xianyuan Heng was calling out to me, asking why I wasn't leaving. I'm reaching out. I'm coming. Then it's time to board the plane. The plane takes off. I put my heart down. I can finally go home. Auntie Qing, you must be all right. The housekeeper came over and whispered in Xianyuan Heng's ear that Mo Sheng was looking for someone in a big way at the airport and seemed to be looking for an extremely important woman. Well, it makes me look a little embarrassed. Xianyuan Heng squinted at me. What woman would be so important to Mo Sheng? Go and find out. After the butler left, Xin Yuanheng then asked me how I met Wang Yiqian. I answered honestly, I met him at the airport. I was carrying a big suitcase, and Wang Yiqian came forward to help me. Xin Yuanheng held up his glasses. Although Wang Yiqian looked very gentlemanly, but that was only on the surface. In reality, he was a guy who refused to let others in. He came closer to me again. He came to ask me for a favor today for you. It's the first time. Are you guys just in such a normal relationship? You and Wang Yiqian should be friends. Ask him if you want to know. Maybe he'll tell you why he's interested in me. I then stood up. Sorry, I'm a bit tired. I'm going to take a rest first. He flashed a smile. What a sly girl. Airport personnel over here bent over backwards to apologize. Sorry, we really don't know where that lady is, because she went into the security screening area. And Mo Sheng thought about the surveillance shielding area. Could it be that someone was helping her? Then he ordered his men to prepare the plane. I'm going to S City in the morning. I don't know what's going through my mind at this point. Watch them leave and get ready to get out of here too. We'll get you again. S City Airport here. Mr. Xian Yuan, thank you for taking me back to S City. We'll see each other again then. He took out a card. This is my card. If you have any difficulties in S City, you can call me. Ordinary difficulties are not a problem for me. I joked. Such a precious personal contact is given to me. You are not afraid that I will sell this business card to make money. You should be a person of distinguished background. Right. Xian Yuanheng held up his glasses. It doesn't matter. Anyway, what you did, I will get it back on Wang Yiqian. I also thought, it's no good if I mess with the Heavenly Master. This guy seems to know my weaknesses. You're a dark man. Same to you. I'm off. Bye. Then turn around and get out of here. But Xian Yuanheng didn't leave and said to follow her. Auntie Qing lives here. Xinjia, you've called the police. What did the police say? The police came to look at it and said there was no sign of burglary or theft, and no signs of a struggle. I looked at the house and no, the house had been moved. Someone had been in the house looking for something, but everything in the house was neat and tidy. I know Auntie Qing too well. Her habits, the way she arranges things, it's all in my mind. Later, I received a threatening phone call, saying that if the police were called again, Auntie Qing's life would be in danger, and that I didn't dare to tell the police again after hearing Auntie Qing. The caller said to let you work this out on your own. I recalled that Auntie Qing had lived her whole life in isolation from the rest of the world. The only dangerous thing about her was that she knew me, and perhaps this time she was also after my Sylve. Did you say on the phone that you want me to go somewhere to make a deal? Xinjia's worried about me too. You really have to step in and take care of it yourself. It's too dangerous. A man walked in and called out to Liushuang. You went on a business trip to a faraway place without saying a word. And now Auntie Qing is in trouble and you didn't tell me. Do you still see me as your brother? I'm sorry too. I might really need your help this time. Xinjia, go ahead. Where's the deal? Xinjia named the location. Tonight at 10 o'clock. 13, Jiangning Road Point. I asked Brother Xiang if you could get night vision goggles, the kind that allow you to see in the dark. Okay, and I'd like you to find a way to shut down the power in that room for 10 seconds after I go in. Hancho Yue is curious. Is your plan reliable? What can you do in just 10 seconds? I'm confident. Don't worry, just listen to me. No! 13, Jiangning Road. Hancho Yue instructed, my men are nearby. If you see that the situation is not right, immediately send me a signal. Understand? I'm hiding this dagger. Got it. After 5 minutes you remember to cut off the power. But this kind of villa usually has a backup power supply, so you'll have to do it again. And then I'm out of here. I went to the door. Who the hell kidnapped Auntie Qing? Who the hell is waiting for me? When the door is opened, I'm in shock. 2. What's a grandpa doing here? She asked me to come with him. I can't help it. I had to follow him. When walking to the room inside, I was surprised. It's you. So it's the woman who seduced Ho. This side of the henchmen also reported on their work. It has been ascertained that the woman is called Liushuang. She rushed back this time because of the disappearance of an elder called Auntie. Xian Yuanheng naturally didn't believe that an ordinary reporter could make such two big shots as Wang Yiqian and Mo Sheng surround her, although it was indeed a beautiful woman. Right, but that Wang Yiqian and Mo Sheng weren't people who hadn't seen the world before. Is there anything else special about her? In particular, the henchman continued to report that she had somehow managed to escape from Mo Sheng twice in a row, which was a very rare occurrence. It's rare for someone to escape from Mo Sheng. Find her. I like someone who can tease Mo Sheng like that. No! 13, Jiangning Road. This woman has a superior posture. Yun Liushuang. I really didn't expect that. After not seeing you for a few days, you've actually had a facelift to make you look so beautiful. No wonder he's got Long Ming's attention. I crossed my arms. I haven't seen Ho Lang Ming since that day. Who did he change his mind to? This woman stood up. Don't play dumb. Angrily, he turned to me and said, if it wasn't for you, how could he have abandoned me? I don't relate in the slightest. I came to pick up Auntie Ching. The woman turned her head. But unfortunately, you are too late. I've already finished her off. She was screaming for Frost on her deathbed. Come and help me. I watched this woman's performance. Auntie Ching is not in your hands. Auntie Ching wouldn't call me like that. This woman is also annoyed, whether she is in my hands or not. Anyway, you came. Myself will reach. I cannot get him you do not want to get. I'm speechless. What's wrong with you? You are the only one who thinks that kind of guy is precious. When the 5 minutes were up, I held out my hand. Don't you feel cheap for going this far for a man? When I put my hand down, the time had come. Bang! It's pitch black. Switch on the backup power. But these three were stunned by the scene in front of them. I'm holding this woman hostage with a dagger. What are you doing? Shut up. If my hand shakes, you are screwed. This woman is still talking. My father is an executive of the Regulus Group. If you kill me, it's the same as going against the entire Regulus Group. But how would I care? I stepped up my efforts, and that's when she spoke up. She did try to kidnap your Auntie Ching, but the place was deserted when I went there. She only left you a letter. I also remembered that this is indeed Auntie Ching's style. I don't believe it. What kind of era is this? Everyone uses mobile phones and computers. Who uses letters to leave messages? This will make a woman cry. I'm not lying. The letter is on me. So it's on you. Told you. I'm groping for a woman. After I got the letter, I pushed her away. You have no brains and you blame me for swindling you. People like you deserve to be locked up with Ho Lang Ming. This woman is still trying to put words in her mouth. Just wait. I'm going to. And then I disappeared. It scared the shit out of her. And then all you hear is, toast. The woman was still in a state of shock. So the men asked her what was wrong. And I've stepped out and taken off my night vision goggles. My brother came to ask me how I was doing. Where's Auntie Ching? I'm going to take out that letter. Auntie Ching doesn't have it. They're the ones who left her. I don't know what to say when I look at the letter. My brother immediately asked me what was written in the letter. I casually said that in the letter Auntie Ching asked me not to look for her. Brother saw that I was not right, asked me if I was all right. I am naturally all right, ready to leave here. And the Fox clan related things. Even if it is you, I cannot say ah. Today's incident is still related to that bastard Ho Lang Ming. Keep an eye on Su Rong for me. Aircraft landing. Mo Sheng then came to S City. The next day, the newspaper building. Han Chiu Yue investigated and found out that the newspaper knew all about the danger of this mission. But Manager Gu let me go without telling me anything. I went to the manager's office. I'd give up my job today to get to the bottom of this. Gada gada. Trying to open the door. But no one's there. When Shin-jae saw me, she greeted me. Liushuang, you're back from your business trip, while I asked her if the manager wasn't there. But then I heard Shin-jae say this. Manager Gu said that I was out there just hooking up with men, not even working, and said that when I came back I was going to fire you. I'm very annoyed. Spreading rumors about me while I'm away. I almost lost my life out there. And who caused this? Shinja told me not to be angry. Manager Gu is out of town today for a meeting. There's a bills group that wants to buy our paper. He's gone over there. I'm curious about the acquisition of the newspaper. Who is that group? Why do they want to buy our little paper? I'm looking at the information profile of Bila's. Shinja is also upset about what happened to me. If you go to reason with him, call me. I don't believe you're the kind of person who doesn't care about your work. Thank you, Shinja, but it's my own business. Let me sort it out myself. I'm risking my job today, but I can't drag Shinja into this. Billings Group building. With this man standing here, Mo Sheng didn't go straight to Liushuang. Mu Qingli asked him, you are also really come all the way here, not directly to catch her but to acquire what the newspaper. And Mo Sheng also responded to his words. Why do I want to catch her? I want her to throw herself into the net. Mu Qingli then laughed at him. After being fooled a few times he has become smart. Is it? This is to be a slave to turn over to be a master. Hearing this, Mo Sheng turned his head to look over. Who do you say is the master? Then he immediately waved his hand. Not to tease with you, are waiting for you to have a meeting, and mustn't just turned his head to look down. Quicksilver has arrived at the bottom of the building. This is it, Beale's tower. When she had walked in, she had fallen into Muson's hands. Then he introduced himself to the receptionist. I'm a reporter from Qingfeng Daily. I'm here to see our newspaper director. The receptionist is looking at Frost's press credentials. The receptionist also said, it's the Qingfeng Daily newspaper. Your supervisors are having a meeting on the 29th floor, so you can wait for a while until the meeting is over. But I immediately refused. I had an emergency. I had to see our supervisor right now. I was here to stir things up. I wouldn't have a chance when he finished the meeting. The two of them whispered that they couldn't let her go up there. And what if she wandered around and upset the chairman of the board, whose office was upstairs? I was also speechless when I heard this. Another cleanliness avoidance. How come I've been encountering cleanliness all over the place lately? There's nothing the front desk can do. I'm really sorry, but please come back later. I can only turn around, but I won't give up. And this receptionist thinks I'm definitely coming back and looks like she's playing some kind of game. And then a janitor came by with a cart. The lady wondered if I was the one in disguise. Then grab her hat. Stop! You want to blend in, don't you? What do you do when this janitor turns his head and realizes he's the wrong person? I'm sorry, you're so overthinking it. And naturally, I can't use this despicable tactic. You think that's me. Sis can be invisible. I'm just waiting for someone to get on the lift. After all, an empty lift moving on its own would be suspicious. The lift is on the 29th floor. I walked out and slipped into the bathroom. There's no surveillance in the toilets. We'll go out like this and find the manager who did this to me. Heck, I won't let you get away with it. I'm going to show this Beals group what you are, and it hasn't gone very far yet. Mo Sheng called out to me, Miss Yun, long time no see. I also realized at this point that the fact that he was here meant that a footstep is coming. I also know that the footsteps must be Mussin. He's the last person I want to run into, and we shouldn't have crossed paths again. But why would I be happy to know he's okay? To know he's close. Mussin is standing back, ready to talk. Very domineering. I said you're mine. I won't allow you to leave me. This makes me extremely helpless. What a guy! Why does a nice man have such a long mouth? He doesn't speak like a gentleman, but when he does, he's a bully. I pretended to smile up. Oops, if it isn't Uncle. Long time no see. And Mussin knows she's being deliberately immodest to piss me off. Mo Sheng looked at the operation of the two. The two together 3 years cannot be more. Afterwards, they asked me what was going on and why I left alone. I jabbed my finger, calling, Uncle is scary. Uncle bullies. Speak properly. Mussin's face is serious. I immediately bent over and apologized. I'm sorry I was wrong. An important elder of mine disappeared. I came back to solve the problem, and you told me to leave because I was in the way. So I came back first. Mussin stopped me. He apologized, but it was his fault. Mo Sheng said, the first thing is that the gang from Qingfeng Daily are still waiting for you in the conference room. The second thing is that there is a man downstairs who is looking for Miss Yun. I was puzzled and asked him, me? Who? Said called Hancho Yue. A young man. Oh. Sheng finished his sentence. Mo Sheng is not right. And I remembered that Shinjie knew I was coming here and was afraid that something would happen to me and informed Hancho Yue. Mussin, on the other hand, asked me what elders are missing, and this is your missing elder. I quickly explained. No, that's my pro-brother. But how is this right? Your last name is Yun, his last name is Han, your pro-brother. Do you think I'm stupid? Because we grew up together. Anyway, he has nothing to do with this. Don't go after him. You're still defending him. Mussin heard the words, and I was helpless. No wonder Mo Sheng said he had personality problems. He was too hard to handle. And then I show my eyes. What? You're jealous. You're having a crisis, thinking that I'm not as good as Hancho Yue and that I'll be snatched away. Mo Sheng confidently said that she's not comparable to him. I spread my hands. That's all. Why are you so nervous? I'm going downstairs to find Hancho Yue. I won't bother you. Mussin seems to sense something is wrong. Why does she seem to have me wrapped around her finger? Don't go. Stay with me. Mo Sheng took my hand. But don't you still have a meeting to go to? Do your work quickly. The people from Qingfeng Daily are still waiting. The Daily Breeze. I heard that. I finally figured it out. Buying the Daily Breeze. So you're the chairman of the Bills group. And Mussin turned around. Said the Biles group belonged to Haven Biles. I looked puzzled. Bills. Isn't your last name Mo? The men in the conference room have been waiting. Mo Sheng also finally walked in. Gu manager immediately stood up with an attentive face. Mr. Mo, you're here. Today we are. He also happened to see Drift Frost at that moment. I thought to myself, how did she get in here? It's not good if she's here to get me in trouble. Then manager Gu pointed at me. You have the nerve to show up here. She has to be shocked first to get her out of here. I know all about it. I let you travel to work, but all you know is to hook up with unsavory men. You've disgraced our newspaper. When I heard that, I knew manager Gu was finished, because this man is Mo Sheng. Everyone in the conference room looked. So I said to Mosin, did you hear that? He said you're not a good person. Manager Gu is still trying to explain something. What are you talking nonsense? I am not talking about people, Mr. Mo. I am saying that. Wait, Mo Sheng flew in last night. Liushuang is working today. Mo Sheng also graciously admitted that he wasn't bullshitting, and that I was the man who was a miscreant, taking away the... Wait, don't be like that for a second. I'm holding Mo Sheng's hand. Manager Gu looked at me like this and immediately became grateful. Liushuang, thank you. You deserve to be the best reporter in my newspaper. I'm rummaging through my bag for something. It's hard to get here. You should at least let me finish my sentence. Taking a black box and slapping it on the table. I've got the evidence. You've put me in danger by hiding the seriousness of the situation. I'll see you in court. I waved my hand. Okay, whatever you guys want to do next. The following image is too bloody for a young girl to watch, so you can imagine what happened to Manager Gu. Mo Sheng's with us. Let me through. I looked at him, then straightened his collar, expressing gratitude with a smile. Mo Sheng watched my movements. Thanks for nothing. Thanks for taking the heat off me. Then I'll get out of here while I still can. In the office. I followed Mo Sheng here. I'm on the phone. I'm at the Bills group. I'm safe. You don't have to worry. I'll talk to you after I hang up first. Mo Sheng asked me if I was that Hancho Yue. I turned my head. It's all right now, so I'll call him to check in. He just straight up stroked my head. Don't you leave me. Okay. He just looked at me. I looked up at him too. I'm just an ordinary woman. Well, I'm invisible, so maybe not so ordinary. But what is it about me that makes you so obsessed? He touched my neck again. I want you to walk with me through this lonely life. The current head of the Wani family once gave me a fortune teller who said that I was born a widow, lacking in affection, and destined to die alone. And my destiny was cursed. But fortunately I had loving parents. I had an ordinary childhood, a quiet life. I'm lucky. And he, what has he been through? He looked out of the window. I don't believe in fate. Neither do you. So I want you to stay with me and walk through this life. I don't need likes and loves. I just need you. With me. It was still the same kind of emotionless speech, but his eyes revealed real emotion. I want to talk. In the end, only one word was uttered. Good. Mo Sheng is delighted. You agree. I covered my mouth. Why did I say yes? And then it's like, wait, what you just said. It's gonna take a while to realize. We've got a lot of problems. All I can say is, let's give it a try. Hearing this, Mo Sheng disagreed and shouted at Liushuang. He squeezed my arm. Didn't you just agree to it? Why did you say try again? What else could be wrong between us? That's the problem. He pulls my shirt off. What kind of hegemony are you? You hear the word no and you start to do it. First of all, I want my freedom. I want to go to work. I want to make my own friends. Do you agree with that? But Mo Sheng refused outright. You don't need to go to work, let alone show your face. I forbid you to have dealings with other men. I also spoke my truest thoughts. I don't want to be the canary that you lock up and spoil. Don't you understand? Mo Sheng was about to retort, and I went on. If someone you cared about immensely was also being pushed around like that, what do you think? Don't do to others what you don't want them to do to you. Mo Sheng seems to have remembered something. The reason why. Let's start as friends. You can't interfere with my work or my social life. Only then did Mo Sheng turn his head in displeasure. Then you should at least live with me. I waved my hand back. Okay. If it's just simply living together, I can live with that and it saves me money on renting a room. Let's not talk about the clothes. Look at what you've done. He told me to go and get Darky. He'll get them ready for me. I'm leaving. I'm going to find him. I have something to ask Gu Chongming. Right after I left, Mo Sheng's mobile phone called and he picked it up. The person on the other end of the phone said, Mo Sheng, Guna has called for the nth time to ask about your whereabouts. And she said that if you don't care about her again, she's going to come. When the person on the other side finished talking, he hung up the phone. I was walking down the corridor with Dark too, and I got curious and asked him, how'd you guys find the women's clothes so fast? Dark 2 embarrassedly coughed lightly twice. It was Mr. Mo Sheng, and I also heard the meaning. Mo Sheng screwed women all the way to the company. I'll get changed and come find this Gu Chongming. By this time, Gu Chongming had already been beaten black and blue. He immediately got scared. Don't look for me. It's He Langming who told me to do it. If there's something, please go to him. He took hundreds of thousands of dollars to me. He wants Liushuang's life. So it's Ho Langming. Why? Isn't breaking up enough? Why does he want me dead? I was shaking with anger. Dark 2 was looking at the wrong state of affairs. Cloud Dark 2, on the other hand, consoled me. You don't have to be too angry, because all those who harmed you, the young lord will punish them by sending them across the Bridge of Sighs to suffer. That stopped me in my tracks. He asked what the Bridge of Sighs was. It's a dark place in our headquarters, a place of punishment, just across the bridge from the young master's castle. All who cross that bridge utter a sigh of despair, hence the name. I turned curiously. The Bridge of Sighs, the castle, punishing prisoners. Was I still in the midst of civilized modern society? That although I can already sense that Mo Sheng's identity is not ordinary, however, how powerful he really is. Dark 2 explains that the young lord has the power of life and death to a certain extent. Perhaps it's not quite the same as the world you know. I'll let it go. Take me to see Mo Qingli. When the door opens, Mo Qingli, I want to ask you. And this is what I saw. The woman scrambled to get dressed. Qingli said to me, Miss Yun, please knock before entering other people's offices. Okay, I rushed to apologize too, but I really didn't think that you could really do something like this in the office. Mo Qingli scratched his head awkwardly. So what? I am not a clean old virgin like Mo Sheng. What did you come to see me about? It's not a good time to ask anything. I just came to thank you for finding me the clothes. And can I go upstairs to find Mo Sheng now? He then explained that Musin is 80% in a bad mood right now, but you should be fine up there, and I was curious to ask what's going on. He just whispered something to me. Your love rival is about to appear. Be careful. I waved my hand. Don't worry, I don't even have a date. How can I have a love interest? Then I turned around and I was leaving. I'm leaving. You can carry on if you want to. He watched me leave. Feeling that I was as difficult as Musin, I came to Musin's office. He said softly, I'm back. I'm back. I met Gu Chongming and heard some terrible rumors about the Bridge of Sighs, and he seemed to care enough to get up immediately. And he said, that's not a rumor. All those who disobey me will end up walking across that bridge. I looked him in the eye and asked him, so is this a warning to me? Smart girl, you should know that my word is not to be broken. I've gradually sensed his identity. During the day, he's a figure who can make the financial world quake when he stomps his foot, and in the darkness of the night, he's a murderous and decisive. He's not a good man. He's probably got a road paved with blood behind him, and now he's trying to tie me to him. I pointed at him and said, I'm warning you too. He didn't care. He warned me. You. I went on. Listen carefully. I'm not a white flower who'll listen when she's scared, or a gold digger who'll cling to you when you're rich and powerful, and then you're old and grumpy and get angry and rough with me. So why should I be with you? You dare to dislike me. Mo Sheng immediately got upset. But you threatened me. Why can't I dislike you? I'm warning you not to treat me like this in the future. Forget it, I'm going back to work. That Gu Chongming is almost done. You can hand him over to the police, but don't kill anyone from me. That's when he reminded me. Did you forget? You're already my employee. I really forgot that you are now my big boss. Then I justified it by saying, I'm sorry. I'm quitting. I'm firing you. Musin then asked me if you were going to quit. Yes. No. It made him grimace. What's wrong with this woman? And Liushuang looked straight at him, not afraid at all. Finally Musin turned his head and said the secretary wasn't there, a reason I couldn't believe. Musin went on to say that the secretary was away and that no one had processed my application to leave. Then of course I asked the secretary when she'd be back, but the answer I got was I didn't know. This guy's afraid he's going to prevent me from leaving my job and banish my secretary later. Childish. I turned around and got ready to leave. Forget it. We'll talk about the separation later. Mosin just grabbed my hand. What are you doing? I have my own business to take care of. He's slightly aggravated. You promised to live with me, and I smiled. He should be scared. I know I'll do what I promised, but first I have to take care of my own affairs. He slowly let go of my hand. I grabbed my bag. Get ready to open the door and leave. I'll be back in the evening. Moxon just watched me leave. After I left the house, I said, if you lie to me, I won't let you go, and said it with a worried face. He can be childlike and adorable at times, and I took out my mobile phone. It says that Wani Qian has come to S City. I panicked. This guy came after me, and then someone else called. The person on the other end of the phone said, Miss Yun, this is Xian Yuan Hung. I'm full of annoyance. Why are all the people who are more troublesome than others here? And I can only deal with him. Mr. Regulus Hang is a very memorable man. Yes, Miss Yun is also very unforgettable. I've seen your old photos. You're a different person now. I responded awkwardly, because I'd had plastic surgery, and it's not bad, is it? He, however, does not believe it. Is it really like this? Forget it. It is fine if Miss Yun does not want to talk about it in detail. By the way, do you remember this person? Su Rong. Of course I remember. I heard that Miss Yun broke through the encirclement in full view of everyone with her great skill. Is that true? With her incongruous looks and superior skills. What is Miss Yun? Who is so mysterious? Purposely approaching Wan Qiqian for? Do you want to go somewhere with me to have a little chat? Or if I tell Wan Qi's all about it? That made me laugh and he asked me what I was laughing at. I approached Wan Qiqian on purpose. I'm an agent. If you really think so, go tell him. I thank you. And Xian Yuanheng seriously said, I'm not joking with you. In addition, I still have your Aunt Qing's news, so you also refuse to come out to see me. Hearing Auntie Qing's name surprised me a bit. He said he's got news about Auntie Qing. Is it true? He just said, if you want to know what it is, meet me at Dingtian Cafe on Xixing Road in 2 hours. Without giving me a chance to talk, I hesitated. Should I meet him alone? The man had ill will written all over his face. Anyway, I'd better go back to the office and pack up my things. I was determined to quit anyway. Back to the newspaper building. The bosses of the newspaper are all out of breath. I heard that Gu Chongming was screwed by you, and you've even got a handsome president on your list. It's not as exaggerated as they say. If Gu Chongming is arrested one day, it's only because he broke the law. What's it got to do with me? She went on to ask me, then what are you doing? I thought you were going to quit your job and become a rich wife after cleaning up after Gu Chongming. The elder sister laughed at me. She even gave herself a whole face when she went on a trip. Even if she had a better face, which handsome guy would look at her? I tried to go up and argue, but she stopped me. Instead, Wan Qiqian walked in. Frosty, you're here. I didn't think this guy would make it here. Packing. Let me help you. I refused outright. No, it's already loaded. Why did you come over? That's not so fast, is it? Winchester lifted the box from me. Let's go. I'll tell you more when we get out. I waved back. So I'll leave now and we'll talk again later. What? This handsome guy isn't handsome enough. That makes this big sister feel very unbalanced in her heart. I asked him, how's your father's illness? Don't you spend more time with him? It's fine. He's got an old problem. It's nothing serious. Your side is more important. Where are you going next? I'll go with you. I looked at him. Could it be that he calculated that Xian Yuanheng wanted to see me, so he came over specially? I didn't say anything, so he asked me what was wrong, and I said thank you. If you want to thank me, don't call me by my full name. Just call me Ken from now on. Well, I don't know how to answer that. I'm still not used to it. I'll call you Wan Qiqian. Without the word sir. Okay. He also sighed softly and did not speak. Come to the Dingtian Cafe. Xian Yuanheng is already here waiting for me. I said hello, Mr. Regulus. I'm here, on the other side, here in the Beals group. My men report that the previous assassin has been identified, and the man behind it is your uncle, Andrew Bills. You were right, he's connected to Ramsey. We did the right thing to cut the deal. Another thing, I just got a report that Miss Yun Liushuang is now with Wan Yiqian. Hearing these words, Mo Sheng then drew attention, and then bang on the table and yell at Dark 2 for saying important things first. Xian Yuanheng held up his glasses. Wan Qiqian, you, the pampered young master, also have the day to give people as a hard laborer. And Wan Qiqian didn't care about his words at all. No matter what, it's good to get a smile from a beauty. I took my own box. Here, put it on the floor for now. Smoothly sat down. Mr. Xian Yuan, you see Wan Yiqian, he has sacrificed his image so much in order to be able to get a smile from you. Xian Yuanheng is embarrassed. Do you mean that beauty is referring to me? I responded to him in a serious manner. In terms of beauty and looks, I'm definitely not as good as Mr. Xian Yuan. On the side, Wan Yiqian could only stifle his laughter, which also left Xian Yuanheng with nothing to do. Okay, I'll get back to the point. You said you had the stuff. Now can I have it back? Xian Yuanheng also said, it's not impossible to return it to you, but I've got something to ask for from Mr. Winchester, but I can't even get him to come. So it's true that women are more attractive. Wan Qiqian also spoke up at this time, although I don't know what it is, but you'd better return it to her, or else, when this little one gets anxious and really makes a scene, her claws are very sharp. With what's going on with your family, maybe I can go and help out. As soon as Wan Yiqian finished speaking, Xian Yuanheng took out what I wanted. And then he said thank you. Wan Chiqian looked at me with a smile, and I turned my head to look back. I seemed to owe him more and more. There was a jingling of bells. Musin walked in and angrily denounced what was being done here. I also realized the problem. Oh no! Why is this jealous man here? Xianyuan saw Mo Sheng come one here. Immediately all rise to welcome. So it is Mr. Mo. Just a small shop. How can let you come to visit? I'd like to explain. But, said whoever came to me was expected to fight whoever came to me, and the only foolproof plan was to. In fact, it's Mr. Wanchi who's asked this beauty to meet him, and he's too embarrassed to come by himself. So I'm here to help them. When Xianyuan heard this, he didn't know how to respond. Xianyuan added, could it be that you are the one who repeatedly escaped from Mo Sheng's hands? And after that, you still let him forget about it. And Moses grabbed me straight away. Come with me. Wait, my suitcase. And Xianyuan continued, Mo Sheng, you can't be an M. The more others abuse you, the more you can't forget them. Right. I turned my head in embarrassment, so you should stop irritating him. Musin turned his head and said an M. I immediately panicked. No, don't listen to him. Yet Musin asks what M is. Behind him, Xianyuan said, Mo Sheng, I'll be waiting for you at the venue for the charity auction 3 days from now. Moxon turned his head. I'll be there for sure. And Xianyuan continued, Mo Sheng, you're destined to be a widow. Aren't you afraid that you'll kill this dainty Miss Yun? I stopped in my tracks when I heard that. Mr. Wan, if you're so accurate, why don't you tell this beauty's fortune too? I think he's the one with the blackened seal. I'll leave when I'm done. I got angry when he came out. He's a pain in the arse. Who's he cursing? He's the one who cursed his father, his mother and his whole family. When Musin saw me talking like that, raising his hand, he mentally said thank you. Then he picked up the box for me. He told me never to see these two again. I look at him and he's still in the same foul mood, but somehow I feel grounded and safe when I'm around him. Although that Wani Qian is very nice to me, he always makes me vaguely uneasy, as if he's hiding something. As a result, I accidentally bumped into Musin's back and tried to say what was going on. He just grabbed me, kissed me right on the mouth. Although his heart was thanking me, he didn't say it himself. After they separated, he said that Xianyuan was right. I did kill all my brothers and sisters. Are you afraid? I asked him, do you believe in fate? And he immediately replied that he didn't believe me. That's why I'm smiling, cupping his face. That's not the end of it. Whoever believes in fate, let them follow it. We have our own way of living. Hearing what I said, Moxon stared at me blankly. Here the two continued to sit. Xianyuan asked to Wan Chiqian, when you asked me for help, why didn't you clarify her relationship with Mo Sheng? Wan Chiqian responded calmly, Mo Sheng's air mission is to bring down your Xianyuan group. Letting you know this identity, you are bound to use Frost as a bargaining chip. You're so precious to this woman, but she's gone with another man. Wan Chiqian put down the coffee in his hand. It's mine. It will always be mine. And I can't help you with yours. Xianyuan this will not be happy. You play me, but this is not to play you. Mo Sheng although the fate of the lonely strange, but there is a fierce star blessing. I'd advise you to stay out of their way. It's for your own good. Back in Musin's office, a man just said, this is what you want, right? Violence is filled with makeup. Mo Sheng looked at the two of them and became unhappy. What is this about? Why did you entrust Mu Qingli but not talk to me? When Mu Qingli heard this, she turned around and was ready to leave. Enjoy yourselves. I'll leave first. I took out a box of makeup. What's the point of telling you? Do you know foundation? Do you know the color of your lipstick? Then touch his hair. Don't be angry. I'll take you to a game tonight. You'll see. It's just a relaxing game. A reminder of your childhood. Hearing the word childhood, Mo Sheng also recalled childhood of being forced to drink poison by his own father, a childhood of constant torment by siblings. What's there to remember? However, he looked at the woman in front of him. I had a mother in my childhood. Maybe she's the only one who will take me to the game. It's nighttime. I asked him if he'd taken out all the surveillance. Moxon let out a soft hum. This is Ho Lang Ming's home. Well, it's almost my home, too. I looked at Musin. I came here today to get justice for myself. Ho Lang Ming is still pouring red wine, comfortably leaning back on the couch. And more than just the imminent danger, the lights went out with a bang. He thought it was a blackout, and then the door actually opened the door to attract Ho Lang Ming's attention. He took the light of his mobile phone and looked for it. Who was there? I dressed up as a ghost and walked towards Ho Lang Ming. Ho Lang Ming was so scared that he wailed, then fumbled with his mobile phone. It's Yun Liushuang. Right, I've seen you. Don't play tricks with me. I turned around so he could look at my back and he asked what I was doing here. I squinted my eyes and asked him why he was trying to kill me. He Langming said nervously, "Who are you kidding? I know you showed up at the company today, and you're not dead. You bitch, don't try to scare me." He waved his hand worriedly. As a result, I went straight to stealth. Ho Langming doesn't know what's going on. How can it be? It's really a ghost. I appeared behind him again, hands on his shoulders. Ask him what won't leave me alone. All you hear is screams. I was your fiancé. I thought you were my destiny. And not only did you betray me, but you sent someone to kill me. Why? I yelled at him. Why? He crouched on the ground, shivering in fear, and Mussin was already behind the wall, listening to what I was saying. The truth finally came out of Ho Langming's mouth. I had no choice. He gave me money. He gave me a lot of money. I continue to grimace. Who? Who paid you to kill me? He also answered the question honestly. By Xiang Yi. I only know this name. I don't know anything else. Upon hearing this answer, Mussin couldn't wait any longer. Ho Langming has also noticed the situation over here. Mo Sheng directly kicked him in the face, and then another kick in the nuts. The screams from the building have been heard all around. Moxon picked up the mobile phone on the floor. I'm looking for that guy's phone number. When you find it, call it. The number you have dialed is not available. Musson, he realized, was a cautious man. Did you see anything? I saw Liushuang alone, ready to leave the place. Mo Sheng followed behind Liushuang, their footsteps clearly visible. He looked at the state of Quicksilver. Let's just say you can cry if you want to. I wiped the lipstick from the corner of my mouth, not wanting to cry. He didn't deserve it. Seeing that Lu Fang had stopped, Mo Sheng raised his hand behind him, but didn't lower his arm. From tomorrow onwards, don't think about him, don't be sad about him or I'll punish you. I couldn't keep my eyes off it, turned around and hugged Mussin in his arms. Tears are falling like crazy. I'm not sad about him. I'm sad that I was blind. Maybe it's through that smooth-talking Ho Langming that I've learned more about how good this clumsy guy is. Looking at Mussin's eyes, even though he spoke a little stiffly, I can feel the tenderness in my heart. Sitting in the car, I'm taking off my makeup. How's it going? Did you have fun tonight? Do I have to pay for the show? But Mussin just said how much. I didn't think you'd ask seriously. Aren't you afraid I'm a gold digger who's here to cheat you out of your money? Mo Sheng looked serious. I can afford to give you as much as you want. I can still make more after spending it. I just want you as a person. I don't care what you want from me. I was a little overwhelmed by this. Mussin is ready to send the car. Besides, your whole body is mine. What does it matter if I move the money from here to there? I've got money in my eyes. That's what Shiho said. Then give me a house. Just after finishing, Mo Sheng said, don't let others know about your stealth technique. My mother also had special powers and had a miserable time when people found out about them. I asked her what happened to your mother. He didn't answer me. I'll help you find out who Pak Sang-yi is. Looking at Mussin, who didn't answer my question, I didn't know how to respond. Come the next day, I'm standing on the balcony, thinking back to last night. The only time he would show that kind of expression was when he mentioned his mother. That should be the most important person to Moxon, just like Auntie Ching is to me. As it turned out, it wasn't a clue either, but something Auntie Ching wanted to leave me in her early days. Thinking back to what Auntie Ching said, you foxes have a hard life. Take this with you just in case. It's an elixir left behind by the family. It can cure most of the world's poisons. It's Auntie Ching's family heirloom, too valuable for me to take, and she still left it to me without leaving me any trace of her whereabouts. At this time the butler came out. Miss Yun, please change your clothes. The auction is about to start. I'm pointing at myself, getting dressed for the auction. Yes, your dress is ready. Please follow me. Although I knew he was going to the auction, but, surprisingly, he took me there. Are we considered to be in a confirmed relationship now? Ho never took me to a dinner party before. This is my first time. Forget it. We'll go. Who's afraid? Then he followed the butler to change into his gown. I'm wearing jewelry. Let's get one thing straight. I'm a bumpkin who's never seen the world. I won't be responsible if I lose you because I don't know the rules. Mo Sheng has a disinterested face. Even if you pick the house cover, it doesn't matter. My people don't have to abide by other people's rules. Then he took me by the shoulders and was ready to get out of here. I watched him move and he always gave me such a sense of security. And at the party, people are exchanging conversations. I followed Mo Sheng here, and all eyes were on us. At that moment, Mo Sheng seemed to see something. This man then said, hello cousin, I didn't expect you to really come today. I'm curious too. I thought I was alone, but how come there's a cousin? I looked at his expression. It didn't seem right. He reached out again and tried to shake my hand. This must be Miss Yun. My name is Simon Bills. Nice to meet you. Mo Sheng directly blocked his hand. Then take me by the shoulders and leave. Stay away from him. Can I ask what that that Simon has against you? It's nothing personal. Mo Sheng had another flashback to when I was a kid, and this Simon shouted at someone to grab me. Then he took the whip. It was thrown hard into Mo Sheng's face, and he just hates my guts. As I listened to Mo Sheng's outrageous words, it seems that family problems are quite complicated. Liushuang walked over. This cousin of yours. Indeed. Even you do not give face. If he gives me face, then I should be worried about whether it is not a short time to life. Mr. Xianyuan is holding this auction to deal with him. Right. What kind of gift have you prepared for him? Xianyuan grimaced. The world's #1 assassin. Is that enough? A woman came over and greeted us. How are you two? I didn't realize that the top-ranked bachelor, the always-alone CEO of Delmont, had a woman by his side today. But Mo Sheng ignored this woman. Demon. Is that Mo Sheng? And why does this woman look a bit familiar? This woman took me by the hand. How were you able to get Mr. Desmond to take you with him? Come and tell your sister about it so that she can find such a good man too. I also finally remembered that she was the only daughter of the Asian ship king, Ku Xiyin, and someone from the Qingfeng Daily News had done an interview with her. Let me ask Mo Sheng, is Mr. Desmond known to be a good man? This woman answered for Mo Sheng. Unlike those incompetent second generation, Mr. Delmont not only owns the huge Bilas group, but also has no gossip. I can't believe this guy's really this good. I thought he was a good guy. A man just shouted Mo Sheng. Demon. Come on. The woman still wants to retain Mo Sheng, but she definitely can't. Then she changed her face and turned to leave. I was also surprised by the scene. Never mind. It's rare to come to such a high-class place. Let's have a good meal first. I was just about to pinch the food when a plate was brought to me. Simon asked me. I got it for you. I don't know if it's to your liking. I said thank you, but Simon didn't seem to want to leave me alone. He moved his head closer to me. I know you've been trying to escape from Mo Sheng. Let me help you. My cousin is too ignorant of tenderness and consideration to leave the beautiful young lady here alone. I agree with him. That's really true. I know you ran away from him twice. That's amazing. But now it looks like you're still succeeding. It's pathetic. He spat on Mo Sheng again. This cousin of mine. He killed all his siblings with his own hands. If it wasn't for my father protecting me, I wouldn't have lived to see the whole day. So run away, beautiful lady. I'll grant you that wish. Wait, I didn't. Simon squinted over, and Mo Sheng just happened to look over, watching Simon come close to my face. Simon was the first to speak. Cousin, this beautiful lady friend of yours asked me to kiss her, so I did. If you don't mind, this beautiful lady might like me more than you. Don't you think so, Miss Cloud? I look at this devious man. You're helping me get away with this. This isn't dumping on me. The Mo Sheng is furious. Put your hands up, and I finally came around, and then immediately poured red wine in Simon's face. He poured the food he had just eaten on his face. The crowd looked over as well, and Simon stank of. Xianyuan looked at the situation over there. That girl which is so good to deal with. Simon the boy thought too simple. Simon pointed at me. You ungrateful woman. I was kind enough to help you and you did this to me. I also responded to him immediately. How I choose to live my own life is my business. I don't need you to be fake nice. And I hate it when people touch me without my permission. And I hate it when people slander me. If you come near me again, I'm going to pick up another plate of food. This Simon retreats. Girl, we'll see. Sooner or later you'll be played by demon. Mo Sheng took my hand. That's enough. I'll help you teach Simon a lesson. But not now. I want to see him die. My breath is so close in public. I'm blushing a little. I know. Do what you want with him. Just leave me out of it, I said and sheepishly picked up the food. By the way, I remember you saying that the Beals group belonged to Haven Beals, but I've heard them all call you Desmond. So who is that Haven? Haven is my father. I responded coldly. So now the Bills group belongs to your father. He's still alive. Mo Sheng has a sinister look on his face. He wants to die, but I won't let him have his wish. What's going on? I'm stunned, too. It's like I've inquired about something really bad. Demon, meaning devil. That's the name my father gave me. How could a father give his child a name like that? It's full of hate. Forget it. It looks like his family is complicated and dangerous, so let's not pry. By the way, why did you come to the auction? You and Xianyuan are so at odds. This is clearly a Hongmen banquet. Right, because there's something here that my mother really wanted when she was alive. It's supposed to be one of the last collectibles to be auctioned off, and I'm going to do it justice. It's been a long time since I heard the last one. I just want him to eat something quick to settle his stomach. Why? What's really here for the taking is too dirty for me to eat. I was speechless. This dead cleanliness freak was having another tantrum. I picked up a piece of meat, ready to shove it in his mouth. Eat as much as you want. This meat looks freshly cut to me. No one has touched it yet. If you keep starving, your stomach won't be able to take it. He looked at my meat. I remember when I was a kid. I cried and wouldn't eat. I wouldn't eat. I'd starve to death. Everyone wanted me to die anyway. But mothers aren't all mothers. Mummy wants you to grow up healthy. To see my mom love me so much. He ate the rice in one bite, and Drifter chucked up the meat like his mother was feeding it to him. I finally ate it. I'm relieved. Yeah, that's right. If you like that, I'll get you some more. He was touched and looked at Driftfrost. His heart seemed to be grateful. The auction will follow. Please move to the auction room and take your seats. The auction is now underway. Let's take a look at the first lot of the day. Being quoted, Musson didn't care. I watched him close his eyes. You're really going for the last one. You didn't even look at the first one. The next lot is a pair of white nephrite bracelets. I'm looking at this pair of jade bracelets. They're so beautiful. I've always wanted a pair of suede bracelets like these. Listening to other people's offers. 700,000, 800,000. I don't think I'll ever make this much money in my life. Mo Sheng directly shouted at this time. 1.5 million. I asked him what was going on, and he seemed to know I wanted it. I was going to say I wanted the house. That was just a joke, but it turned out he had already bought it and would show it to me next time. The auction lady is holding the jade bracelet. So good. This collection has been auctioned by Mr. Musson. And here's the last piece of the collection we all looked at. This is a carved plaque of Hatian jasper, a precious antique handed down to us, with a starting bid of $100,000. I'm looking at this beautifully carved plaque. That's what you asked for. And he answered right. Xian Yuanheng also looked at this ancient object. You are here for this. Right. But unfortunately, you can see it, but you can't get it. At this time, suddenly swish sound. The lights went out. The crowd looked a little alarmed. How the lights went out, and that's when a gun poked out and aimed at the lead inside. I turned my head and realized the danger. A bullet was fired, and Musson helped me to climb down. Hearing gunshots, this is when someone reacts and someone shoots. Then they run around and kill people. Mosen told me to stay put. My men will protect you. And then he left the place, and I tried to stop. Dark 2 came over. Miss, the killers are coming for the young master. He's afraid to involve you when he's with you. Please come with us. And I saw a dark figure stealing the jade tablet. It was something important to Mo Sheng. Something he had to get even if he risked his life to come here. He couldn't lose it just like that. My night vision is much better than the average person's, which is useful at this time. And then I became invisible. Dark 2 touched his head. Why am I blurry-eyed again? It seems I can't stay up all night. I took 2 steps up the stairs. When I opened the door, it was empty. I came to the window, and the man should have run this way. Where? I was still puzzled when I heard someone say. I didn't realize it was a small kindred spirit, and then he nudged me in the back. I just appeared out of nowhere. What's going on? Someone broke my invisibility spell. A man came out too. He took out the engraved plaque and asked me, "You chased me all the way here for this, didn't you?" I gave a little He just threw me the tablet. If you want it, you can have it. It's of no use to me. Consider it a welcome gift. I'll take the engraved plaque. He turned around and was ready to leave. Little sister, I'll catch up with you later. The Furies are coming. I'll run away first. Just a whoosh and he's gone. I came to the window and realized that the person had disappeared. I'll hide the jade tablet. I'll put it away in a hurry. I can't lose it. And at that moment, I suddenly heard a voice. As the noblest of the foxes, the silver fox, a woman jumped in. And she went on, "You're still useless as hell." This woman was walking slowly towards me. Come close to me and examine me carefully. Hearing her talk about my fox clan, could she be one of mine? Then she was leaving the place, and she warned me, "Take care of yourself, and be careful of Mo Sheng and Wan Qiqian." Then she jumped out of the window, and I tried to call him back. Fox is my kind. I'm not the only fox in the world. I'm not alone, but the people are gone. She leaves here and another one shows up. Why are you here? The man opened the door panting. Mo Sheng asked me why I didn't stay by Dark 2's side. He asked me if I was hurt. I'm fine. What about you? Musson came to the window and looked down. Where was the man who had just run over to him? I was worried and said I didn't see it. Musson turned his head to look at me and I still said I didn't see anyone go by. I realized how I'd lied to him, and the thought that it might be the last of my compatriots made it impossible not to lie. He turned around and questioned me. When I came here I had already seen a man escaping through the window in front of you, but just casually asked me, "How dare you lie to me?" I hastened to explain. "No, it's not what you think." Mo Sheng continued again. "You even joined forces with Liushuang to deceive me." I was a little curious when I heard Ryusetsu's name. He thought your names were just a coincidence, but I guess you knew each other. I immediately explained. "You misunderstood. I heard the name for the first time today." Mussin grabbed my arm. Didn't hear it. Why did you harbor her? Why did you lie to me for her?" "I can't tell him that I'm a fox. I can't reveal the existence of the Fox clan." I shrugged it off. "Forget it, believe it or not." Moxon looked at me. "I lost something so important and yet I came to care about your well-being in the first place, and that's what you did to me. The men behind us have come here." "Young master, are you all right?" Musson turned around and said, "Get her out of here." When Dark 2 heard this, he didn't know what to do. I reached out and squeezed his hand. "Ask him, don't you trust me anymore? He wants me to let go." I went on to explain that I'd never heard the name Ryusetsu before, and I'd never conspired with anyone to set you up. The part of me that's hiding from you has my reasons. When I finished I let go and turned around ready to leave. Musson watched me leave. I don't know what's on my mind. At this time Mu Qingli came over. He's listening to us talking. I've said all I have to say. There's nothing else to say. I looked at him angrily. "Thanks to me risking so much to help you retrieve the jade tablet, you don't trust me so much." Mo Sheng still doesn't believe me. "You know I hate betrayers. If you don't say something," and he raised his arm. I asked him what he was going to do if he didn't tell me. Mo Sheng looked at me with such a strong attitude. Then he turned around and left. "I'll give you a day to think it over." I pondered if I should give him his mother's jade tablet, but the timing was never right. Mu Qingli leaned against the door. "Yo, I was afraid you'd be beaten. It seems to be fine. One don't want to pay attention to him. Don't pay attention to me when you're angry." He walked in and continued. "I know you two have a misunderstanding. Musson still believes in you or you wouldn't be standing here so intact. He had experienced too many betrayals as a child, the worst of which had been when he was 18, and since then he had had a deep hatred of betrayers. You'd better not gamble with him. If he wants the truth, tell him while it's still salvageable." And right in front of it is the grave of Mo Sheng's mother. I also realized that he must have a lot on his mind. Things related to his mother are his scales. That jade tablet is really important to him, but I have my own scales. The most important thing to him is his mother, and to me it's the foxes. Mo Sheng put down the flowers in his hand and knelt right here. He seemed to see something again, seeing the fox in front of him. Moxon got up. "You're the fox from before. This is coming back to throw yourself into the net, and I look helpless. Who's going to throw themselves into the net? Don't you dare mention before. I'll scratch your trousers to pieces." I scratched his trousers with great effort. "Looks like you haven't changed a bit." Moxon grabbed my tail by the hand. "I'll skin you and boil you in a pot if you don't stop messing around." I'm still scratching him, trying to catch him. A fox and a man just watching. Mo Sheng slowly sat down again. "Forget it. No matter it's you or her. They don't seem to be afraid of me. You know, ever since I was born, I've been told by the Wanchi family that I'll kill my relatives, but it also says that my evil star is so high that I'll be on top of power and wealth. My father tried to kill me at first, but was stopped by my mother, and then decided to use me. He fed me poison to try and control me, not realizing that I'm naturally immune to most poisons. What kind of father is this when I hear these words? So I went along with it, pretending I was under his control, becoming a sword in his hand, helping him push his career to the top. Then, let him taste what it's like to fall from the clouds. I understand why this guy's character is so twisted. From a young age he knew how to hide in the shadows like a wolf, waiting for the perfect moment to act. His surroundings drove him crazy. What he really wanted in life was very, very little. Mo Sheng's mother was Mo Jinxue, but it seems like everything I want, God slowly takes away. The only family member who loved me when I was young was my mother, but she sacrificed herself to break my destiny of being an orphan. Hearing that, how similar he is to me. Both are not favored by fate, and my parents have sacrificed themselves for my survival. But he's even more pathetic. He didn't have a proper father or a normal childhood. But I'm useless. My mother's only dying wish was for me to retrieve the jade tablet and return it to my grandfather. But I failed. I was at once speechless, for the most important thing in him was in me. He smiled bitterly again. Mother loved foxes very much when she was alive. So at that time I wanted to bring you home to raise you, but I didn't realize that. After you made a scene in my room, the jewel my mother left me is gone. Mother said the jewel would bring me the right person, but you lost it. Is it possible that the one mother is looking for me is you? The little fox. I seemed to realize something was wrong. No way. Did I pack myself away to him from then on and I was the one he was meant for? Thank you for listening to me. It's been a long time since I've spoken my mind to anyone. They just looked at each other, and I kicked him in the face. Swoosh and get out of here. What a wild fox. Mo Sheng wiped his face. I went back to my room. It seemed like I'd heard too much tonight that I shouldn't have heard. I looked at the jade tablet in my hand. I'd better give it back to him tomorrow and talk it out properly. And how I'm full of him. All of his destiny. Forget it. Forget it, and cover your head. Next morning, I went to Mo Sheng's office and told him to take this. Mo Sheng turned his head to look over. He asked me why it was at your place. Of course I'm working with someone else to trick you. Maybe I put some kind of trap on it to kill you. He told me to stop being so angry and tell me what's going on. I also explained that I saw the person who stole the jade tablet last night, so I stealthily chased after him and tried to help you to get it back. Then my invisibility magic somehow failed. Although I got the jade tablet, but the man ran away. I was afraid that it would be dangerous for you to go after him. That's why I said I didn't see anyone. Even though I lied to you, I meant well. I didn't expect you to threaten me so much. Mo Sheng looked at me. Then he came up and hugged me. He said thank you sincerely. I heard this and did not respond. And he went on. I'm sorry I doubted you. I'm a little embarrassed. And then cried out. I risked so much to help you grab the jade tablet, and you even doubted me. He wanted me to stop crying, and you threatened me, and you hit me, and I covered my face and complained. He also explained, I didn't hit you. I just straight up retorted, why don't you believe me? You're so sad. And Mo Sheng scratched his head in embarrassment, because this jade tablet is really important to me, so I'll do it this way. I'll make it up to you. And that's what I want. Then I'm aggrieved. Then you promise me 3 conditions. Firstly, no hitting me without my permission, including hitting me. He tried to explain that he didn't hit me. Secondly, you can't just suspect me. You have to investigate everything before you come to me. Okay. Thirdly, I want you to change your bossy ways and listen to me. And Mo Sheng listened to the 3 conditions and didn't know how to respond. I went on to say that disagreeing means you haven't reflected properly at all. Mo Sheng held his forehead. I agree. Don't cry. I got what I came for. 2. It's done. Then I asked him, by the way, who the hell is that Liushuang you were talking about last night? His eyes immediately glazed over. Flowing snow, the world's #1 assassin. I'm amazed. #1 in the world. Is my mate of the same race such a dangerous character? I asked him if there was a feud between you two. Mo Sheng responded to me, I don't hate her, but she hates my guts. What really happened between you two? But Mo Sheng told me not to ask. It has nothing to do with you. I was hoping to learn more so I could find my kindred. In that case, well, you were busy. I'm going. He asked me where I was going. I turned my head to explain and went out to buy some clothes. But in the back of my mind I was investigating the 2 kinsmen in passing. However, Mo Sheng snapped his fingers. You don't have to go out specially to buy. The butler popped up at that moment, and I asked curiously. The result was an array of clothes. The 2 attendants said, these are the latest models this year. Please take a look. I turned to him and asked him what he was doing. Mo Sheng is holding his coffee. Buying clothes is just a matter of which brand you want. Just give them a call and let them bring it over for you to pick out. I'm saying thank you, but in my heart I'm screaming rich bastard. I certainly didn't remain there. What a way to get out of there. Thinking back to just now, in the end I had to bring up the 3 agreements I had just made before he let me out of the house. This man is so annoying. He wants me to stay at home with him. Let's start with the place where the auction was held. It's not easy to find those 2 again. A hand came out from behind. The previous man's mouth said, Beauty! Brother has opened a presidential suite upstairs. Do you want to go up together? I'm annoyed. Yeah, no problem. But let's get one thing straight. I'm not human. As a result, when turning around, he also said, what a coincidence. I'm not a human being either. He beckoned. Come with me. There's another one waiting for you. We walked into this hotel. When I saw the person in front of me, I froze. Liushuang said we meet again. Let's introduce ourselves. My name is Ling Shi, from the Green Fox clan. Her name is Liushuang, from the Red Fox clan, and Ling she came close to me and continued, and you're from the Silver Fox clan, right? They're really from the Fox clan. I actually have company in this world, Liushuang continued to explain. If I'm not wrong, in this world, the people of the Fox clan, probably only the three of us left. I thought I wasn't the only one, but now it's just us. Liushuang then asked me curiously how the seal on your body was undone. I don't know what to make of it. Seals. There's a seal on me. Of course. Without sealing your fox bloodline, you wouldn't have survived this long. In that case, I do look a lot prettier than before, and my mind is starting to clear up. So is this a sign of unlocking the seal? Is that when the seal was lifted? It's true that your appearance was changed because the seal was lifted, but the ability, the Fox clan's mana is almost all that's left. Even for me. Ryusetsu laughed coldly again, and even then, might not be able to fight Demon, who was an ordinary person. Curious, I asked her why the foxes had so little mana left. How come you kids don't know anything? It's because of the disaster. Even the Wanchi family has a disaster. Are you friends? Can the Celestial Masters live in harmony with the foxes as well? Not exactly friends, just that we are on a delicate balance. Besides, the Wanchi family is in decline, so they won't have time to catch us. Even if we do, it's still a 50-50th chance. I leaned aside with a resigned look on my face. I must be the one dragging my feet. Lingxi is close to me again. It's okay. Beauty. Master is here to protect you. My heart of gossip. Burning. This man. Could it be that the... Then I reached out and touched Lingxi's chest. Lingxi doesn't know what she's doing. Lingxi immediately covered the chest. Liushuang, you see her. Even attacked the chest. I also finally know that you really are a female. I asked her again. How did you break my invisibility? Lingxi got naughty. Not telling you. You took advantage of me, at the expense of me giving you that jade tablet. Liushuang also said Lingxi at this time. Told you to get the jade plate. You are good. Hand over. This time Mo Sheng the guy do not even have to pay money to Xian Yuan Group to get something. Lingxi scratched his head. I think it's nothing. She wanted it, so I gave it to her. I also hurriedly explained. Liushuang, it's not Lingxi's fault. It's me who asked her for it. I want to know, is there really a big grudge between you and Mo Sheng? Liushuang raised his hand to indicate that what is between him and me has nothing to do with you, but I advise you to leave him super early as well. I asked her curiously. Why? Are you also afraid of his destiny? We foxes are not afraid of his heavenly destiny, but he himself is too dangerous. I bowed my head in response. I'll think about it. Lingxi hurriedly rounded up the situation. Well, there are only 3 of us left in the Fox clan. We should live in harmony and help each other out. Liushuang sidled her head with a look of disgust. As long as this guy doesn't slow me down. I dragged my head helplessly. Yes. You're the world's #1 assassin. I'm just a regular drag queen. Lingxi saw my face. Liushuang is just usually colder, but she cares a lot about her own people. We as the last remnants of the Fox clan, let's support each other in the future. Liushuang still doesn't give a good face. She has a man. It's impossible for her to support each other with me, and her man is still the one I must defeat. Liushuang looked at Lingxi again. Of course, if you want, you can also have. Do not have to stay here with me. A big piece of. It's not possible for me to be with him. He's traveling around every day. He's probably forgotten about me already. I can't believe it. You have a boyfriend. Liushuang also explained. It's an ex-boyfriend. That person you still know it. I know. Hoo-ah! This way. Mo Qingli came to Mo Sheng's office. You are looking for me. Moxon is heavily overdue. I have something to ask you. Mo Qingli also got serious. You said. As a result, I heard Mo Sheng say how to cheer up an angry woman. He immediately laughed at Mo Sheng. I can't believe you would ask me this kind of question one day, because you're the only one I know who wanders around all day. So who am I going to ask if not you? I suggest you take her on a cruise or something. Girls love the Titanic. On the other side of the building, a man said, when are we going to make our move to finish off Mo Sheng? Liushuang sent back word that she's given up fighting against Mo Sheng. A killer who can match Mo Sheng. Who else but Liushuang can you look for? Xian Yuan Hung continued. But don't worry, we'll get our chance soon enough. A ship as big as the Titanic is about to meet an iceberg of his own. He looked out of the window and said this confidently. After I finished meeting with the other foxes, I came to Mo Sheng's office, and Mo Sheng threw me a pile of paper. Which is for you. What's this? It looks like divorce papers. No! It looks like some kind of major case file. Mo Sheng continued to take out another box. And this one. And I nervously responded to him. Wait, I'm not ready. Here's the... So it's the goat's jade bracelet from before. And that piece of paper. It's a copy of the house I asked him for. Mussin then asked me if you're happy now. And I looked puzzled. I looked at these two things. Right. These are the things I wanted before. But how come they were given to me so suddenly? Mo Sheng looked at my expression and reacted so flatly. Is she still unsatisfied? Then she can only... He walked out again, come up to me and asked me if you're not happy. He looked serious. You're my man, I won't allow you to be unhappy. I just looked at him. Then turning my head to stifle a laugh. I seem to understand what he means, but the expression is just very mismatched. He said he'd go on a cruise with me in a couple of days. I was curious and asked her what she was doing there. He doesn't answer. He just comes outside the door. Moochingly leaned on the door and eavesdropped. A face of sweat. Mo Sheng, this guy. How can you invite a girl like this? Soon after that, we boarded a cruise ship and went out to sea. Wow! I'm so happy. It's the first time I've been on such a luxurious cruise. I've only seen it on TV before, and explained that it's the kind of episode where you go gambling on the high seas. And Mussin says I'm here to gamble. I hasten to explain. Don't gamble, Gambling is a very bad thing. As the saying goes, 9 out of 10 gamblers lose. You can't. But Mo Sheng said, I'm betting on the Xianyuan family's heirlooms. I sighed. It's the Regulus family again. You're really not finished until you've broken up his family. He asked me if I wanted to go up. Where? He's holding my waist behind me. What are you doing? I'm standing here scared. Are you going to murder me? Throw me into the sea to destroy my family? And he told me to stay put. Moochingly looked at the scene and really learned to be useless. Mussin told me to look ahead, and then the two of them, one after the other, and it occurred to me, so you're trying to imitate the Titanic. He asked me if I liked it. I'm happy and smiling. I love it. Thank you. Thanks for bringing me here. Do you usually go on cruises? I take cruises from time to time, but never for fun. I turned to look at him. People should not work all the time. They should have fun. I'll take you to the amusement park in the future. Mo Sheng also gave a hum. It's rare that he's such a prude and still comes up with romantic things like bringing me to a cruise ship. Worrying about Mo Sheng's heart is, although there is a dangerous Xianyuan Heng here, but leave her at home. You will face Simon and Wanyikian who may come to harassment. In the end, both of them are pretty good like this. And inside the cruise ship, a wide variety of food, and songs and dances, and naturally, there's gambling too. The bustling sound spread through the halls. I followed Mo Sheng here. He took me by the waist and told me not to leave my side. A man called out, Hi, Mr. Delmont, Xianyuan Heng's brother, Xianyuan Yu. I didn't expect that Mr. Delmont would come to such a place with such dignity. Xianyuan Heng is talking to Xian. Xian, it's rare to see Mr. Delmont here, and he's got that little beauty from last time with him. That's right, he also brought that cute Yun sister with him last time. Xianyuan Yu continued, Since we're here, I wonder if Mr. Demon has any intention to gamble for entertainment. I also know it's about to start. There was Mo Sheng asked me if I'm not interested in gambling here equals I don't gamble. I'm a good boy. And then it came to me, and I don't know the rules. Why don't you and Mr. Xianyuan have a bet first? I'll see. Since the beauty of the date, how would I not agree to it? Mo Sheng said to Xianyuan Yu, Since it's a bet, there must be a prize. What do you want? If I say so, the most valuable thing here is your mind. If I win, you'll work for me. How about it? Xianyuan Yu smiled and responded without refusing. I am grateful that you look up to me. What if I win? Mo Sheng took out a ring. If I lose, then I will lose this to you. The atmosphere was frozen. No one spoke. I looked at Mo Sheng. This ring is the heirloom of the Xianyuan family. It's the symbol of the head of the family. Whoever can wear it will be the next head of the family. But how did this appear on Mo Sheng's hand? But Mo Sheng said, This is a jade trigger I got by chance. It's said to be an antique handed down from the Tang dynasty. You should be interested in it. Of course Xianyuan Yu is interested. Mo Sheng took me by the shoulders and asked me to bet for him. I'm flabbergasted. Why did I end up doing it? I sat on the table. It's your game. I don't know anything about it. Mo Sheng explained. Shake the dice. Bet on the size. You shake. We guess. Xianyuan Yu is smiling. Let's start. We're waiting. I looked at this thing. How can I shake it? He got close to me and said, Haven't you seen those cruise ship gambling TVs? It's just like there. Well, don't blame me if you lose. I slowly reached for it. I reached for it and shook it. The crowd was dumbfounded by my behavior. Finally, I hit the table hard. Guess, big or small? Mo Sheng said small, but Xianyuan you said big. I nervously opened the dice. It's 2 6s. Xianyuan you wins. I looked nervously at Mo Sheng. No way. Just for a moment, I lost his trigger finger. That thing must be worth a fortune. However, Mo Sheng didn't say anything. He just let out a light snort. He handed the ring out to Xianyuan Yu, willing to gamble. It's yours. Xianyuan Yu gripped the ring tightly. Then I'll accept it without any politeness, and I won't let you down. Demeng! And the crowd behind them were talking. So was this an indication of the next head of the family? But at least it shows the demon is in favor of Xianyuan Oracle. This made Xianyuan hung on the side tense up, and I stood up. It's finally over, but was directly blocked by Xian. I haven't seen you for some days. I still miss you. I don't know if Sister Yun is interested in accompanying me to a game of gambling. I don't know you very well. I refused straight away. I refused. I just said I don't know anything about this. Why do you want to bet with me? Is it possible that Sister Ko has a grudge against me? Xian immediately explained. Look at you. I'm just bored. I just want to play with you. What do you want to bet on? We don't bet on things that hurt our feelings. She came close to me again. If you lose, you'll have to abandon Desmond and stay with me for a few days on the boat. What do you think? I looked at her with a smile. If I win, what will be my reward? But Xian said, you can ask for anything you want. I pointed at this woman. If you lose, I want all the shares of Co-Style in your hand. When she heard that, Xian was shocked. She was immediately furious. It's just a jokey bet and you put up that kind of condition. It's too much. But wasn't it her idea? Speaking of jokes, I'll be blunt. You want me to follow you around for the next few days? Is this really just a joke? Don't think I don't know what you want. Xian, you say it nicely to play with you, but in fact you want to keep me under house arrest, don't you? I told her not to deny it. That's too hypocritical. Just tell me if you'll agree to the bet I made. Xian looked at me. I thought you were just a white rabbit, but I didn't expect to suddenly extend a sharp claw. You're ruthless enough. But this is what Xianyuan Heng explained. He asked me to keep Yun Liushuang by my side for 5 days. As long as I did that, he agreed to the marriage contract with me. She ruffled her hair. Good. I'll bet with you. I'll do whatever it takes to make this happen. Mo Sheng immediately came forward and pulled me. I don't agree. You want Xian's shares. I will buy them for you. She doesn't deserve to gamble with you. Bastard. Xian was immediately upset behind me. I made a decision with so much determination, but you said it was as casual as buying a bag or shoes. I poked Mo Sheng. Don't be like this. Someone rushed to give me money. Why should I refuse? Besides, this is a woman's problem. You men stay out of it. Xian, dare you bet on hide and seek with me? If it's too much to bully you on the cruise ship, how about in the banquet hall? I'll hide you and you'll win if you find me within half an hour. Xian looked at my performance. That banquet hall only has some tables, chairs and screens. There are very few places to hide people. Good. I promise you. The waiter immediately started to check the dead corners and looked around for places to hide. After checking, the waiter reported that he had checked. There were no other exits or dead corners, so he could start. I made a gesture to Mo Sheng. Naturally, Mo Sheng understood what I meant. I went into the hall alone to hide. Xianyuan Heng looked at Wan Qiqian. It's better to come early than coincidentally. You're just in time to watch the good show. I really don't understand why Miss Yun wants to kill herself. She can't. Wan Qiqian knows my identity. No, he will win. You watch it. Outside the door, Xian said, you're hiding. I'll start looking. She's looking all over. You're dead. Half an hour is enough time for me to go through this place twice. Where else can you hide? The rest of the crowd waited. The minutes ticked by, but no matter how hard she looked, she couldn't find me. She's still wondering where I am, while I'm laughing behind her. It's been 20 minutes and still no sign. Xianyuan Heng also found something wrong at this time, and Wan Qiqian also said it long ago. At this time, Xianyuan Heng suddenly thought, grabbed Wan Qiqian's clothes. Do you know something? And Xian in here asked me where I was. Looking at the time on his watch, there are still 5 minutes left. Xianyuan Heng immediately anxious. Help me win. Don't forget you owe me a favor. I let you deal with Mo Sheng, you don't do it. Then at least this time you must help me. Wan Qiqian hesitated. Finally he grimaced. I promise you to help Kuxian win the bet. This beautiful woman in front of me is incredibly devastated. Obviously has been rummaged all over. How can it be impossible to find it? The people outside the room are very concerned about the situation inside. It will soon be time still not found. Wani Qian indifferently said, can help Xianyuan Hang, but cannot hurt Yun Liushuang, can only be handed over to him to deal with, so he quickly planned. Xianyuan Hang must go to distract Mo Sheng's attention, but Mo Sheng stood aside, thinking that it was almost time. Yun Liushuang would surely win. At this time Xianyuan Hang came forward. Mo Sheng stared so intently. Was she afraid that after she lost, there would be no woman beside her? She is not going to lose. But Xianyuan Hang is very disdainful. He is really full of confidence in this woman. If Guna knows what will happen. Mo Sheng was about to counterattack, but suddenly found a problem in front of him and immediately concentrated on looking forward. He didn't realize it was a strange force. He quickly took out his darts with the intention of stopping it, but the dart in his hand was useless against the thing. But it managed to scare the timid waiter. He looked around with displeasure. Something had just gone in. He should have been able to hit it. At this moment, Wan Qian hurriedly covered his mouth, and his expression was a bit painful. Unexpectedly, he suffered a backlash and uncontrollably spewed out blood. At this moment, Yun Liushuang used her magic power to become invisible. Once the dealer announced the end of the game, she could quickly reveal herself, but there was energy wrapped around her feet, and her feet were actually visible. What the hell is this? Why have my feet suddenly lost their invisibility? As the energy wrapped around her body, her invisibility was broken. At this time, Kuxian found this place and saw Yun Liushuang, who had just revealed herself. She instantly came back to her senses and pulled Yun Liushuang up, saying that she was sure to win this match. In the end, who helped Kuxian? Who broke my invisibility spell? Is it Wan Qian? But when she came out, Mo Sheng directly pushed Kuxian away and asked her if she was alright in a concerned tone. Kuxian stood aside in displeasure. Clearly she won the match. She impatiently reminded Mo Sheng that it was her responsibility to find Yun Liushuang within half an hour, and that he should not renege on his debt by bullying others. But Mo Sheng is very disdainful. If he is trying to bully others, what can she do? At this moment, a hand appeared on Mo Sheng's chest, gently soothing him. Yun Liushuang felt that this was her own business and did not want him to interfere too much. Ignoring Mo Sheng's retort at the back, she had already walked in front of Kuxian, indicating that she was willing to gamble and accept defeat. She touched Mo Sheng reassuringly, and in her heart she already had a strategy for dealing with it, so she followed them out the door, gradually leaving Mo Sheng's line of sight. At this time Mo Sheng clenched his fists. What's wrong with him? Shouldn't he forcefully keep her? But he couldn't refute her. After all, she had chosen to deal with it on her own. He thought of these more and more upset, actually uncontrollable fist to the door of the room. At this moment, the huge cruise ship was illuminated by the moonlight, spreading a subtle scene. Yun Liushuang followed the two of them to the room, but Xianyuan Hang didn't say a word. Kuxian looked at Yun Liushuang, but felt that she was pretending to be noble. Her expression became even more irritated. Yun Liushuang felt very presumptuous. Kuxian's face was so ugly, a man would not like it. A man's bones like to sing the opposite. But as soon as she saw Xianyuan Hang, she stuck up. Can he look at it? At this time, she still wanted to say something. The door of the room was actually opened, so she looked up and looked over, only to see the man in front of her cough lightly to attract their attention. After, he slowly walks to Yun Liushuang and gently greets her. It was instantly clear to her that the loss must have been aided by him. At this time, her men reported to Mo Sheng that Xianyuan Hang's men were already preparing, and would surely be here in a short while. On Miss Yun's side, Dark 2 is following her, so she can be rescued after Xianyuan Hang leaves. But be careful on her side. If she gets hurt, let Dark 2 take the punishment automatically. Wani Qian intends to take Yun Liushuang away, but Xianyuan Hang doesn't want to let go of her, saying that it will take 2 days before he can do so. He hung his eyes helplessly, looking even more forlorn and silent, so he pondered for a moment and then softly walked to the door with the intention of leaving. At that moment, Kuxian raised a gun and instantly pressed it against Yun Liushuang's head. She should consider herself unlucky if she was seen by Demon. If Xianyuan Hang did anything wrong today, she would also be in danger. Yun Liushuang thought to herself. Sure enough, They are using her as blackmail. They are going to make a move against Mo Sheng. But Kuxian didn't think so. Don't think she wouldn't dare to really shoot her. So Liushuang changed her words. If she died, then this talisman of her life would turn into a talisman of death. Unexpectedly, Kuxian hesitated a little. What she said seems to be reasonable. Liushuang secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Now she just needed a chance. At this time, behind Mo Sheng, countless sneaky figures appeared. He had already sensed everything. Who sent you here? The people behind him were even more disdainful, saying he'd better go to hell and ask himself. So they quickly attacked, but Mo Sheng dodged them all. At this moment, he quickly rushed forward, intending to take them by surprise. Sure enough, he was able to kill his opponents with a single blow. In an instant, the area known as the battlefield was cleaned up by Mo Sheng. Suddenly, there was a sneak attack behind him, which made him stagger a little bit. Unexpectedly, he was still hit, and countless blood dripped down to the ground. He covered his wounds in pain, and a regretful voice came from behind him. As expected, it was Manhwa who did the sneak attack. I didn't expect that the high and mighty Mo Sheng would also be injured today. He raised his pistol again. How about letting the sea be your burial place? Mo Sheng is still standing on the sidelines without saying a word, as if he's thinking about something. But Liushuang didn't let him go and said he didn't need to struggle anymore. It was useless now. He pulled the trigger just as the words left his mouth. But Mo Sheng dodged the trigger with ease. When he was in a daze, Mo Sheng had already quickly escaped in front of him. He looked ahead with disdain. Still not dead. Your movements are already much slower than usual. Liushuang instantly chased after him, and the two of them started a fierce chase. At this time, there was a man outside the room. He looked around vigilantly and then blew a secret signal. Both of them inside the room heard the sound, and Liushuang suddenly became serious. At this moment, she could not wait any longer, so she took advantage of the opportunity to counterattack and then quickly escape. But before she could take any action, a hand knife slashed at the back of Kuxian's neck. It was really Qian who came to her rescue. She was a bit confused and shocked for a moment, but it was too late for them to talk. They could only take advantage of Kuxian's unconsciousness to escape in a hurry. After the two of them left, the man on sentry duty rushed in and hurriedly looked around, only to see him cover his face in pain, indicating that he had lost them once again. He had no choice but to pick up Kuxian and carry her away on his shoulder. At the same time, Mo Sheng was still in a fierce chase with Liushuang, but there was no way out in front of him, so Mo Sheng had to enter the room. Liushuang chased after him, panicked. Now you're like a rat in a cage. He raised his pistol again, indicating that Mo Sheng could no longer escape from his grasp, so he pulled the trigger quickly, intending to give the opposite side of the person a shot to death. But the person in front of him who had been shot once, when he was shot again, the sound of pain was actually a bit off. Liushuang also dissatisfied frowned, so hastily previously pressed the switch. I didn't expect that in front of him. It was Kuxian, who had always adored him, who had been shot at. Mo Sheng, who was a bit pleased with himself, didn't say anything more to them. At this time, he let go of the hand covering the wound, but it was a fake wound without a hole in it. Liushuang's face was full of disbelief. He was actually tricked and foolishly chased the whole way. His men, also video recording, said the evidence has been captured, immediately sent to the Ku family. At this moment, Liushuang instantly in incomparable panic. He constantly begged Kuxian's forgiveness. Mo Sheng walked out of the room and asked his men if Liushuang had brought him back to the room. The men stammered, not knowing how to explain to the young master. Apparently Mo Sheng had guessed that they hadn't saved her and she was nowhere to be found. The men said they were incompetent, but at the same time she disappeared. There was also Qian. Mo Sheng thought with displeasure, it's this Qian again. Where would he take her? This man's eyes were so deep that he was staring at the little silver fox. He gave up on his idea decisively. A fox couldn't possibly answer his questions, but his mother did say something like that, so there's no reason to think that way. If someone hadn't pushed his mother into the fire, he wouldn't have been born into a family that suffered. Apparently the little silver fox was trying to comfort him. Killing his mother and all that just wasn't possible. But she couldn't talk now as a little fox, so she had to find a way to change back to her original form. So the little silver fox wanted to find a place to transform, but Mo Sheng was eagerly chasing after it. She was running in a panic when she knocked over a glass of water and spilled it on his shirt. After all, he is a serious cleanliness freak, so he should be in the shower right away. Sure enough, Mo Sheng instantly exploded with anger, stating that she should wait here and not run around. Then he huffed and puffed his way to the bathroom, and the little fox even looked like he had succeeded in his plan. I didn't realize she'd run to the door. It was a good chance to escape and take human form. Mo Sheng Sheng was in the middle of rinsing his body when his mobile phone kept ringing outside the door. He had to rinse it off carelessly. Then he lifted his feet and walked slowly out of the bathroom to pick up his mobile phone. He didn't bother to wipe his half-dried body and hurriedly answered the other caller's call. It was actually Liushuang who had successfully transformed into a human form and pretended to have just come back to say that he was going up to look for him. But Mo Sheng happened to see the doorway and realized that the little fox had escaped again. Liushuang had long been tired, but she could only drink water to hide it. After she quietly surveyed Mo Sheng, she noticed that his hair was wet had he showered. Mo Sheng lowered his eyes to watch the document and answered the other party's question in a tone of voice and its flatness. I spilled coffee on my body, so I had to go rinse it off and change into clean clothes. Obviously Liushuang pretended to be puzzled. How did the coffee get on his body? He stated it was a fox and was going to train it up and give it to her, but it ran away. So she couldn't help but think that although it was well-intentioned it sounded a bit awkward to her. She fidgeted a little in her seat. How to cause the conversation that had just been going on to continue talking? Apparently when she hung her eyes and thought, Mo Sheng was also calmly handling the documents in his hands, but she simply couldn't help but speak. How was your day? Anything interesting? He had to look up at the other man, not expecting her to ask such a strange question, but he won't talk to his lover about his woes. The arrogant president wants to save face after all. Liushuang, however, was not happy about it. If you have something troubling you, you can talk to me about it, but there's nothing he can't solve, so she'll just stay with him. She decisively rebuffed the other's idea, stating that she would not be by his side. At this point Mo Sheng came to the point of interest, and with unparalleled cooperation inquired why she had refused to. I don't want to be around you all the time and do everything you say. I'm going out and getting a job. Obviously Mo Sheng is upset. Didn't I give you the card? You can swipe it as much as you want, but it's not about money. She has her own business and doesn't want to be kept like a small animal. But there's no tradition within the Beals family of letting women go out to work. Liushuang was instantly unconvinced. Why couldn't he work himself? I don't want to be wrapped up in you every day like a doddering flower, and then have nothing left when you abandon me. But Mo Sheng won't abandon her and will give her a lifetime of money. Liushuang was incomparably angry. When will you change this overbearing problem? But they'll be leaving as soon, and she'll have to quit even if she finds a job. Liushuang was instantly shocked. Why did he have to leave S City? Isn't it good to live here? The Regulus family's affairs were soon dealt with, and he naturally wanted to take her back to the European headquarters. Cloudflare Frost instantly brainstormed which country in Europe we're going to. I didn't realize they were going to Af, and she had to learn the language as soon as possible. She suddenly became downcast. Could the complexity of the F language really be learnt? So she suddenly had a flash of insight and said that she wouldn't be living there for long, so she didn't need to learn. It's true that they don't stay in one country for long. After all, they have to go around the 7 continents almost every year. Liushuang was even more dismayed. Then just how many languages do you know? Instead, Mo Sheng said there were about a dozen that were skilled, and 20 to 30 that could speak some. She covered her ears and didn't want to hear it. She had nothing to say to this school bully, but he thinks it's normal to know several languages. Obviously Liushuang has his hands more than crossed. No one can learn dozens of languages as easily as you do. I'm sure it's his indifference that pisses people off the most. So she huffed and puffed and went invisible in front of him and quickly ran to Mo Sheng's side. She was going to hit him in the head. After all, she didn't want to do anything else but hit him. Instead, Mo Sheng stretched his arm and grabbed it, easily catching Liushuang, who was stealthily trying to do something evil. I didn't realize you could see me. My stealth skills won't be easy to spot. In fact, he could feel the wind, the breeze she carried with her as she walked forward. He crept closer to her side, and the unique scent of her body. You said you had nothing to say to me, the school bully, but did you have anything to say to Ho Lang Ming? Liushuang was suddenly confused. Why did he suddenly remember these things again? She pondered for a moment and said decisively that of course there was. He Langming didn't have an IQ but had a high EQ. So she huffed and puffed and threw her head to the side, not realizing that the big jealous Mo Sheng was also angry. His gaze was tinged with coldness, and he thought it was fortunate that he had already disposed of Ho Langming, but he was still angry. What made her think that Ho Langming had a higher emotional intelligence than him? But Liushuang waved her hand, indicating that even if she had a high emotional intelligence, she had long since disliked the. After all, that guy has cheated so many good women with his mouth. They're all blind to like him. It was then that Mo Sheng breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he had controlled his thoughts of going mad. Liushuang was very happy. Uncle, you have a very low emotional quotient, but you are definitely a dependable wooden stump. Though he resented the strange title, he saw that she was happy and let it go. The office was warm, and Mo Sheng had long been unable to resist taking the initiative to kiss the love of his life. But she retained a trace of lucidity, and gently reminded Mo Sheng to let go quickly and pay attention to the occasion. He was a little reluctant, but felt happy when he saw the panting woman. He gave the order to never mention that man again and to forget him. But Mo Sheng is a typical rich and handsome man. There should be a lot of women falling for him. I didn't realize he'd never been in love at all, and many women would feel dirty if they came up to him, and he doesn't want to have a lot of women. He'll only have one for the rest of his life. Since he was a child, his mother had told him that he had to be a strong man, no matter how good or bad it was. At this moment, Liushuang was very heartbroken and touched. Looking at the man with affection, she took the initiative and slowly approached him, her cheeks turning red with shyness. Suddenly the phone on the desk rang, interrupting their tender moment, so she shyly got up and left. And it was then that Mo Sheng inquired what had happened. I can't believe it's P that's in trouble, but he can't help him this time. Mo Sheng hung his eyes and pondered for a moment, then said he knew and hung up the phone. Liushuang was listening clearly from the side. Was there something wrong with the Yuan family's affairs? But he said the Regulus family is fine and will be merged into the Biolus group after a while. But this time, it's a bit unusual. Something happened in B City and something happened to Mu Qingli at the same time. He could no longer make a show of not caring, so he proposed Liushuang to accompany him to deal with the, if we go there today, we won't be back until tomorrow night at the earliest. Liushuang decisively refused. Tomorrow was her friend's birthday, she was going to celebrate it together. But Mo Sheng doesn't agree, and it's an order, not a negotiation. She was angry and wanted to ask, but the words stopped in their tracks. He's a soft touch, but not a hard touch. If you want to get what you want, you'll have to be patient. Don't forget she's a vixen. She's got to use her powers of seduction. So she reveals her proud figure and looks at the man with a smile on her face. She suddenly and quietly stretched out her foot and gently rubbed against the man's trouser leg. As expected, the man is very good at this. Looking at her with love in his eyes, Liushuang's small mouth was slightly open, fully displaying her beautiful appearance, teasing the man in front of her. Women want to take tomorrow off and allow men to send bodyguards to keep an eye on them. Mo Sheng is not moved. I knock you out or come with me, choose one. Liushuang resisted the urge to lose his temper. Men still need to be persuaded in order to be successful. Let me go to her birthday with her. Okay, I cherish this friendship and I don't want to miss my appointment. You don't want the woman you love to be so heartless that she might break faith with you next time. Liushuang quietly approached his ear. I know you hate betrayers the most, right? Mo Sheng really did not do anything hard until he agreed to her request. She gave him a kiss and walked happily out the door. He then realized with a start that he seemed to have been set up by someone. So Mo Sheng traveled alone to other cities and gathered the board of directors with the intention of returning quickly. Liushuang cheerfully came to the clothing shop, chose something and asked the waiter to wrap it beautifully. Suddenly her mobile phone in her pocket, a sharp ringing of the telephone. She had to answer the phone first and ask the person on the other end who was interrupting her good mood, only to see a familiar voice ringing out from across the room. Liushuang, we haven't seen each other for a long time. I didn't realize it was Simon, but he told her to be careful what she said. After all, there should be quite a few people around her. Personal bodyguards arranged by his cousin himself. Simon said what she said next. Don't let them hear or she'll regret it. Actually wanted her to go to him alone so that he would consider not killing her friend. She suddenly felt something was wrong. It couldn't be that Zhang Xiaji and Han Yue had been captured. You waited until Mo Sheng left to make your move. You've got a long line. But she had heard voices from across the room and her friends told her to go to the police and not to fall for it. Simon is threatening again. You hear that? Your two best friends. The bodyguard followed her quietly. After all, he'd lost the young lady several times. Hopefully she won't pull any tricks today. After all, she's the one who allowed us to follow. So they were going to enter the shop and said they were going to buy a present for their brother. The waitress was a little surprised. You want to buy underwear for your brothers? The bouncer suddenly rubbed his head in embarrassment and stated that he had to buy underwear for his wife. He suddenly walked forward, intending to quietly follow where Liushuang was going to go. The waiter tried to stop him, but he was too fast to catch up. The bodyguard recklessly opened the door, only to find that it was actually a fitting room for women inside. So he asked the waiter to see if the last one in was still there. The waitress obediently went into the fitting room, and just now it looked like she was going going into here?" She apologized and lifted the curtain, indicating that a friend outside was looking for her urgently. But after seeing inside the fitting room, she realized that it was empty. By this time Liushuang had already arrived at the door. She looked up at the luxurious villa in front of her, running forward in a panicked motion. He pushed open the door and then she stood still and didn't make a move, just told Simon faintly that she was there. But as if she had realized something, she looked stunned for a moment. Kushian had long anticipated her arrival. Why was it so unexpected to see her? She's working with Simon. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, so let my friend go. Kushian was quite vocal and ordered her subordinates to bring her up with a sideways glance. But Hancho Yue didn't bring it up, and Kushian said of course it's somewhere else. At this point Simon also came forward and boasted that he was a gentleman and would not hit a woman, but he's got plenty of ways to make a woman want to die. So he instructed his men to move forward and take this ungrateful woman away. Inside the limousine at this time, the man exclaimed how she had run away again. Mo Sheng pinched his forehead with a headache and asked his subordinate across the room what it was about this time around. My men said there was a message from Simon that it might have something to do with her leaving. Simon threatened Mo Sheng to give up all his missions, or else Liushuang's life would be in danger. Mo Sheng hurriedly ordered that things on the B City side must be dealt with within an hour. Inside the abandoned factory on the western outskirts of S City, an evil plan is being carried out. Simon had actually brought Liushuang here, and after yanking off her blindfold, she shouts forward anxiously, but the kidnapped person is her friend Hancho Yue. She looked at the duo. "I'm the only one you want as a hostage, so release them." But Simon disagrees, and her many escapes from Musan are simply not trapped. "But do you think I'm at your mercy just because you have me?" Simon's face was grim as he expressed his regret that this was the case. "If you know I'm going to escape, then I must have something to fall back on." Kushian looked disdainful. She really thought she could escape from here, but Liushuang is not a vegetarian. Directly back to the attack to try to see. Both of them were a bit shocked and then shut up at the same time. After all, they didn't dare to take this risk. At this time Mo Sheng stood in the building. His figure even looked a little lonely. The subordinates suddenly reported that after their investigation, they have news of Nisyun. He suddenly intended his thoughts, and his cold, hard voice inquired where the news of the. They sniffed out a taxi driver who had been commissioned by a young lady to deliver the note, so the subordinate stepped forward and handed him the kind of note with both hands respectfully. Mo Sheng, however, suddenly thought that in an hour's time, she meant that she didn't want him to intervene, but it's a good thing she knew to notify him. She'll be punished when she gets back. Kushian was a little scared. If she didn't let those two go, she looked like she was going to be a fish out of water. Simon, however, is not threatened, stating that there's too much trouble to simply kill and save leaks. Kushian has no plan of her own. She just listens to what others say. Apparently Liushuang is getting impatient. "Have you guys worked out a plan?" Simon said he'd let them go if she was a good hostage. She's happy with that, and she'll only cooperate 2 hours after they're free. Simon, however, agrees, but in his heart, he's determined to kill them when they hang up. So the subordinates went to the hostages and untied them all. While they were let out, they actually accused Liushuang of why they came, but she felt that she would never regret having such a close friend in her life. She rushed forward to reassure, "You're just being dragged along. I'll sort these things out." She took her hand as a sister and wrote a secret code on it. After Zhang Xiaojia suddenly understood, her expression actually began to stop worrying, but she couldn't help at all, so she planned to leave with great sadness. Liushuang stood still, his eyes watching his friend as he gradually moved away after. They're going to change places, too, in case these two go out and get help. Liushuang clasped his hands on his chest and didn't care. Just let them do whatever they wanted to do. They were let out, only to find countless dark shadows following behind them. Hancho Yue's eyes are fierce. "They don't want to let us go. They're waiting to kill us." So he clenched his fists with both hands, intending to rush forward and die with the black shadow behind him. But Zhang Xiaojia stops him and Lu Fang writes on her palm for them to go east. Hancho Yue looked in the east direction. There were dark shadows waiting for them in the east as well. Liushuang and the others looked at their friends in front of them until their figures faded into the distance. Simon came up to her at this point and indicated that her friends had left safely. He handed over his mobile phone to prove he'd kept his word. They had run out to reassure her after she listened to the coded sounds coming from inside. So Simon took the phone and put it in his pocket. "So now you have to keep your word as well." Liushuang looked helpless and clasped his hands on his chest to show that he didn't care at all. I didn't expect them to grab her hands and lock her wrists tightly with handcuffs. I only saw Liushuang looking flustered. What are you doing? I've promised to cooperate with you. Xian was a bit happy. What she said about running away at any time was bragging. A chain would solve the problem. Simon thought himself handsome as he shook his glass. What would happen if she was touched by someone else? Liushuang has long been fed up with their faces, so let them be proud for a while. Woman says outright that if she's not clean, her boyfriend will love her even if she's a germaphobe. Of course it's hard to say if Musin would have killed him if Simon had touched her. Xian cannot help but have fallen into such a situation still so crazy. Liushuang looked at the woman without a care in the world. You're just jealous of me. Xian, having been gassed, was actually going to play dumb and refused to admit it. After all, Mo Sheng had never looked at her properly, and Xianyuanheng had never really loved her either. That's why she hated Liushuang and the fact that they were focusing all their attention on her. After Xian was struck by the hatred hidden in her heart, she even spilled red wine on Liushuang. She searched angrily for the whip, intending to beat the ungrateful woman to death now. Apparently Simon had been intimidated, because she had just made a very strong statement. Simon told her not to worry, he'd find a way to get her out of this. Liushuang hung her head low. Her face was stained with wine but she didn't show any fear at all. So they went out and ordered their men to let the woman inside have a good time without killing her. I didn't realize that she had transformed into a little silver fox, her little paws slipping right out of the handcuffs. Xian was quite confident that she would enjoy her miserable appearance, but when she looked back, her gaze was incredibly shocked, only to see that the handcuffs in front of him were empty, and actually let her really run away. But she was here just now. Is she a demon? Why did she suddenly run away? Liushuang had long since turned on her stealth skills, and now she was just waiting for them to leave so she could run away. Simon, being a big man, was a little scared. Was that woman really a demon? Sure enough, he started shooting indiscriminately, fearfully trying to kill the demon. Liushuang said it was bad. This guy was scared and shot randomly. How was she going to dodge it? But before she could dodge, she was actually hit in the stomach by the gun. Simon looked at the droplets of blood splattered in front of him and looked even more dismayed and scared. He looked around in fear. He didn't think there was really a ghost. He didn't want to die here. But Xian wasn't scared. There was no such thing as a ghost. It was just someone pretending to be a ghost. Suddenly her shoulders were grabbed and she was so scared she stopped talking. She looked in horror at the visitor, who turned out to be a man wearing a mask. The masked man violently pushed the two of them away and quickly rushed inside the warehouse where Liushuang was locked up. Xian was banging on the door like a madman. What was going on and who had just rushed in? When they heard the glass breaking inside, they were stunned for a moment, so they couldn't wait any longer, and after crashing through the warehouse door with force, only to find a large pool of blood on the ground, the person inside had disappeared without a trace. Simon was already terrified and kept screaming, who the hell was it? Suddenly a bullet struck instantly, slicing down Simon's cheek. They looked behind them in horror as to who had the audacity to. I didn't realize that it was the released duo that had arrived on the scene with the life-saving dare. They were instantly surrounded. Mo Sheng had long lost his patience. Where the hell was Liushuang? If you get down on your knees and beg me, I might tell you. Mo Sheng ordered his bodyguard to step on his hand so hard that he wailed continuously. He kept looking around, and his expression actually became more and more serious. There were many bloodstains on the ground. He didn't dare to imagine that if these were all Liushuang's. Apparently he couldn't wait, coldly asking Simon if he'd figured out what he was going to say. Simon breaks down and yells, "Demon, you're a complete monster. He doesn't seem to want to talk. Send him to the Bridge of Sighs." Simon was even more frightened of that place, and he hastened to say that he would confess at once. He had her chained to the wall, but then he turned around and disappeared, so he felt terrible and raised his hand and shot, and then someone broke in and jumped out the window and escaped. It seems she must have used stealth to escape, but who was it that saved her? The helicopters above are rumbling on their mission. Liushuang was suddenly jolted awake by the sound and slowly opened his eyes. I didn't realize that it was Wan Qian who was looking at her with a gentle gaze. She was suddenly overwhelmed with sobriety. "Why did you suddenly appear to save me?" Before she could wait for his reply, she sat up hastily, and at the same time the wound began to ache. Wan Qian stated that her wounds had been treated and it still hurt a lot. "It's not fatal, but he's lost a lot of blood and needs to stay in bed. After all, Frosty's bloodline as a silver fox is incredibly precious, isn't it? Liushuang pretended to be unintelligible and lowered his head to pick up a glass of water and slowly drank it up. But Wan Yiqian didn't care, as long as she would follow him. Now they're on a plane, but he's her fiancé, so of course he's taking her home to get married. I have a boyfriend, don't joke about that. Is it just a coincidence that you saved me this time? Wan Yiqian explained in a resigned manner. I worked so hard to save you, not to mention that you still doubt me. She and her helplessness. This is still the fluttering gentleman, gentle as jade Wan Yiqian. She waved her hand in embarrassment. How old are you? Don't act like a little kid. Wan Yiqian, however, is very murderous. Anyway, he is younger than Mo Sheng. She has no way to call him uncle. In fact, he didn't know about Simon's plan, having heard it from Xianyuan Heng's mouth, but he admitted that he took her on a whim, and that he couldn't get away from Musin without doing so. But why did you take me away? Don't give me that 3 lifetimes in a row excuse. But Wan Yiqian said that each of them had something they had to accomplish. At this time, Mo Sheng sat forlornly in front of the window. Countless news actually came one after another. The bodyguard reports that the heir's mission has been successfully completed, but what awaits him is actually getting out. He held up his mobile phone awkwardly and actually looked a little flustered. He apologized respectfully to Mo Sheng and then hurriedly planned to slip away quickly. Sure enough, he's still pining for Liushuang. Where on earth has she been taken? The number of luxury cars that appeared in front of us actually drove one by one to the courtyard of a nearby mansion. Wang Qilian opened the door for her in a gentlemanly manner, while the woman looked around curiously. It means that this is where he was born and where he's always lived. He suddenly took out a necklace and tied it to her white neck with his own hands. This will mask her scent. Otherwise, there's no guarantee that father and the others will find her. But didn't he go to the trouble of bringing her here for them to study? However, Wan Yiqian said that she was a treasure. How could he not bring her over to the study? At that moment, a subordinate appeared in front of him with a stretcher and wheelchair, and asked the young master what he needed. But Liushuang was suddenly upset. I can walk and move. What stretcher wheelchairs? Wan Yiqian felt that what she said was not unreasonable, so he picked her up and indicated that he would just go in like this. How could she be happy with a man's touch? But if she moved, the wound would open. An aunt suddenly appeared at the door. She warmly welcomed the young master home, and Miss Ling was waiting for him too. Miss Ling knew that the young master was coming back today, so she came here early to wait for him. Wan Yiqian, however, felt something was wrong. She wouldn't be so concerned about him as a brother. Was there someone else? Auntie Tao lowered her head in embarrassment. Young master really knows what's going on. Miss Mu is here. Liushuang looked around vigilantly. It seemed like the atmosphere was a bit off right now. Obviously this wasn't something she should be thinking about, as Wang Qilian was already carrying her towards the door. Wan Yiling had already stood at the door. She said she had waited for Big Brother for a long time. Mu Qingying also looked at him expectantly. It seems to like Wan Yiqian, a big beautiful woman. For his part, Wan Yiqian looked apologetically at the two ladies, and as a considerate gentleman should have gone to wait for the lady. So don't wait for him next time. He'll come in person if he needs to. Wan Yiling accused him of having an attitude. Shouldn't he consider making it up to them? He said he wanted to take care of his injured friend, and that everything had its priorities. Mu Qingying was surprisingly very approving. She felt that what Wan Yiqian said was very reasonable. This injured friend is a girl. It's inconvenient for you to take care of her. Liushuang suddenly had some impression that the name Mu Qingying seemed very familiar. The man decisively refused the beautiful woman's request. After all, the little one's claws were sharp. He was afraid that Mu Qingying hadn't taken good care of her, and in turn she had heard not very well. Liushuang didn't have any words, just quietly observed backwards. Sure enough, Mu Qingying's face was gloomy and her eyes were terrifying, as if she wanted to break her into pieces. Outside the luxury office building in front of you, people walk leisurely with their backpacks. The subordinate came to him. Now that the heir's mission is over, it's time to return to the family to resume his duties. But what heavenly changes can be made by that bunch of old nobodies? And that uncle of his? There aren't many people in this world who can hide from him in front of his eyes. He was still lost in his own thoughts when his mobile phone suddenly rang sharply. It was actually Mu Qingli who asked with concern how she was doing recently and whether she had eaten your Liushuang. Moxon was in the middle of his annoyance, and became more and more irritated when he heard the other party's inquiry. Mu Qingli suddenly got serious for a second. Could it be that something had happened on his end? Mo Sheng had to stop hiding his heart, and a bold man took Liushuang away. He reminded Mu Qingli to keep an eye on the movements of the Wanqi family, especially Wan Yiqian, whom he had met before. Mu Qingli told him not to worry. It's the Mu family's stronghold over there. It's no problem to leave it to him. After explaining what made him suspicious, he hung up of his own accord. There was a lot of blood at the scene before, but he still hoped Liushuang was okay. The man in front of her touched her. How did the wound feel? Did it hurt? But she didn't want to hear about that. What the hell he was doing kidnapping her here for? Liushuang sighed sadly. So heartless girl, this is how you think of me. Liushuang, however, is a bit awkward. I'm so uncomfortable. This is not like the usual you at all. But he confessed to her. From the day I met you, I no longer look like myself. All she has to do is agree to marry him and he'll do everything in his power to keep her out of harm's way. Obviously Liushuang's focus is different from others. What do you mean you don't want to hurt me? But there was an urgent knocking at the door, so Wani Qian had to go to the door to deal with it. Wani Ling asked who that woman was and why she didn't know how to greet them when she saw them. Liushuang was very helpless, and also greeted them, did not scold the street even if she was civilized. Wanqi's warned them not to go in. The little one is a bit upset right now, but Sister Qingying has been waiting for you for a long time. Why are you so close to this woman? There hasn't been a child in the Wanqi family for a long time. Mom's anxious for her brother to get married so he can have children. They just love Mo Sheng, but why did he bring such a woman? Liushuang was also very puzzled as to what it meant that no child had been born for a long time. She looked to the door in sudden shock. Was there something wrong with the Wanqi's family? Wanyikian no longer had any patience. After all, he was in charge of his own affairs. What right did she have to control him? Wani Ling suddenly became pathetic and hung her head after being chastised. She was also doing it for his own good. Mo Qingying explained that she hadn't seen him for a while and missed him, so she asked Ling to bring her here. Wanyikian directly rejected her disguised confession that he had a favorite person. Don't bother him again. Liushuang, eat melon, eat up. This guy looks gentle and soft, talking quite ruthless. For a while the three of them were silent one after the other. Only Wanqi Ling was still sobbing in aggression. She suddenly breaks the peace. Is it the rude woman he likes? Wani Qian spoke out to stop her from saying any more. Look who's being rude now. I didn't think my brother would yell at her, or yell at her for that woman, obviously not wanting to face them again. Wanyikian simply slammed the door of his room in anger. He also locked the door to his house, ignoring his sister who was still breaking down and shouting outside the door. Mo Qingying did not hide her expression. She did not expect her favorite to be taken first. He apologized and walked towards Liushuang, explaining that his sister was a bit capricious, but she didn't care what people thought. What was the purpose of kidnapping her here? Wani Qian said he had already said that we are destined for 3 lifetimes. Of course he wants to marry you. But she had heard her sister's words, and with all that was going on, was she the key to the problem? He doesn't understand that he's so handsome, so gentle, so considerate. He's supposed to be a good choice for a mate. He approached her with an agenda from the start, and she wanted more than anything a simple, honest relationship. He also wanted to just be that fluttering gentleman, and didn't want to use such despicable tactics against her. But he shuddered and clenched his fists to show that he had no choice. He was the eldest son of the Wanqi's family and had to shoulder his responsibilities, but also really liked her. He helplessly turned his back, but his remaining light was still watching Liushuang. If it continues to wear out, I'm afraid that even as the eldest son of Wanqi, I won't be able to protect her. It's true that Wanqian has always been kind to me, and he's done me a lot of favors before. She sighed in sudden displeasure, but such things as feelings were not in her control. Just as she liked Musin very much, at the same time she respected each other's choices. She buried her head under the covers in annoyance, yet her heart had long been given to Musin. The man in front of him clenched his fists in annoyance and looked out of the window, constantly pondering something. He suddenly hammered on the floor-to-ceiling window. Liushuang, where the hell are you? At this time, Liushuang was not thinking about these things and soon entered dreamland. Suddenly her wrist was grabbed, and she slowly opened her eyes to softly call out to Mo Sheng. But her eyes snapped open because the man in front of her was not him. Surprisingly, it was the man who had brought her home, Wan Qian, only to see that the man had a tight grip on her wrist. Ignoring Liushuang's fierce resistance, he slowly bent down to get closer to her. His gaze revealed a plea. Frosty, please give me a child. The more she thought about it, the stranger the matter became. What the hell was he talking about, and why was he getting more and more outrageous? Apparently the man didn't want to explain any further and wanted to continue with the rest of the steps when he suddenly released her wrist. But Liushuang's eyes widened, not expecting him to stop, only to see the man incomparably devastated. If he could be as reckless as Mo Sheng, how good it would be. Instead, she tugged on the covers to warn the man that Musin had never not messed around with her before. He slowly removed his hands and looked deeply at Liushuang. Wan Shiqian pleadingly stretched out his hand. Frost, can you give me a child? She looked even more helpless. After all, how could he open his mouth with such an unreasonable request? It turns out that the Wani family is desperate, and all they need is the bloodline of the Silver Fox clan. Obviously she's no slouch either, and by desperate do you mean no newborns being born? But when she said it, silence awaited her. Although I don't intend to give you children, you've got the wrong man for the job, because I can't have a baby at all. Apparently, Wanchis doesn't believe her, but you're a celestial master who knows all about our Fox clan, so there's no need for me to lie to you. Auntie Ching, who has always treated me like her own daughter, left me a letter a long time ago. She said I was born with a curse, so I couldn't have children. Auntie Ching wouldn't lie to her. Even if she conceived a child, she would abort it or the child would be cursed too. But as a celestial master, Wan Yiqian knows all about their Fox clan. This can't be true. She had expected him not to believe it, but she hadn't realized that he didn't believe it at all. The silver foxes have been punished. Your wrongful birth and the dying of the foxes. That's the punishment. So it's impossible to inflict punishment on your child. He doesn't have to lie to her. She suddenly had a bit of a headache, but she had been accompanied by Auntie Ching since she was a little girl. Auntie Ching, who guided her and taught her everything and protected her in every way. Why did she lie to her? When Wan Yiqian wanted to explain something, his mobile phone kept vibrating. I didn't realize it was my own father who was about to die, and how the onset was so short this time around. My sister said she didn't know either, but the whole house was already in chaos. Cloudflare Frost wasn't thinking about herself as she inquired about what had happened to his father, but what he said shocked her beyond belief. In fact, he didn't want to save him because his father had killed his own mother. Until this moment, it was as if I saw a Mo Sheng shadow in him, but he's the child of the Wanchis family. Wanchis Ken, and he has his own responsibilities to bear. Yun Liushuang blocked him. You said you want the Silver Fox's bloodline. Is it to save your father? Without any hesitation, Wan Yiqian admitted that it was indeed the father who saved this mother's murderer. You mean, not only did you use me to have a child, but you also used an innocent child to save your father. Liushuang sat up. How could you? It turned out that the wound was a bit painful because of what I just did. I have the ability to refuse and choose. But what choice does a child have? Why should he be born to be a sacrifice for your family? Wan Shiqian looked at me with a serious look and didn't say anything. Then he laughed. So I asked him what he was laughing at. He laughed and said, "Do you really believe that? You don't really think I'm going to sacrifice the baby or anything? Do you think I'm the kind of person who would do something like that?" Wan Yiqian stood up. "I am really sad. What do you mean You take me to play He sidestepped. "I did have to save my father, but I wasn't deranged enough to hurt our children. But it's nice to see you defending our kids so much." This made Driftfrost get embarrassed and react to the fact that something was wrong. Then a pillow flew towards the door. "Who promised you a baby?" Hiss. The wound hurts again. Which of this guy's words are true? He's standing alone outside the door. Frosty, you really are a good girl. If I could be your child, it would be the happiest person in the world. That's why I don't want to hurt you. But the Wanky family has used their powers so much that no more heirs are born. And we need the Silver Fox bloodline to break the curse. That's the only way. No, there's two ways. One was married to a silver fox and gave birth to an offspring with demonic blood. There's another way to take you as a silver fox and turn you into a potion. He scratched his head helplessly. But how can this be? I would never, ever want to hurt you. Here at the Mujiaza Manor, the girl who was just at Wani's house came home. Mu Qingli came over and asked her where she had been so late in the evening, but his sister didn't want to talk to him. She just said hello to the second brother and was ready to leave. Have you just come back from Wan Kikian's place? You seem to have thought of it already. The girl turned her head. Second brother, don't mind so much. Mr. Wankel just came back to New York today, so what's wrong if I go to see it? Second brother was not happy about it. What's there to like about that hypocrite? And intentionally or unintentionally, he asked her if he had brought back anyone, such as a woman. How do you know? Second brother, it's just that a woman was brought back, and she seems to be injured. Really? Does that woman look like this? Mu Qingli immediately went forward and took out the photo. She looked at the photo taken out. It was of Yun Liushuang. Yes, that's her. Does brother two know her too? Mu Qingli patted his sister's shoulder. It was really no effort to get there. Finally found this Yun Liushuang. On the other side, here at the Wanchi house, the old man looked at the dying. There's a woman lying on the side of the bed, crying continuously, and Wanchi's is here with her sister. Father, if it wasn't for your insatiable character, you wouldn't have incurred such misfortune, and now you can only rely on sky-high prices for medicinal herbs and my talisman to renew your life. He's not worth sacrificing Frost to save. Wan Yiqian took out the talisman and chanted the incantation. The spells continued to dissipate in the air. With a shout and a wake-up call, the old man opened his eyes. The woman on the side was surprised to say, "Master, you finally woke up," and the old man breathed a sigh of relief. Stretching out a trembling finger, he pointed forward. He cursed Wan Yiqian. "Why didn't you listen to me and marry Mo Sheng? The Wanchek family has no queen. How can I face my ancestors?" He closed his eyes and responded, "I think, Father, you are the one who was ashamed to face the ancestors." The old man sat up in anger. "What did you say? Rebellious son, I chose a wife for you with both talent and appearance. What are you not satisfied with?" But Wan Yiqian didn't want to pay attention to him and turned around to leave. The Wanchek family has an ancestral tradition of not marrying again after being widowed. "I don't know how you, Father, do it." The old man was a bit anxious, but still didn't say a word. "And even if you marry Mo Sheng, you still can't have children." The younger sister said at this time, "Does brother really like that rude woman?" Wan Yiqian stopped his footsteps. This auntie asked her sister, "What kind of woman is my brother?" He turned his head sideways again. "I can make my own decisions about my own affairs, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm in charge of the Wanchi family now." The old man lay down and complained, and his wife panicked. "The old man will not live for a few days, and in the future will have to rely on this Wan Yiqian. But will he be a threat to me if he marries some woman from nowhere? This is the current Winchester family, dirty and despicable, full of rivalries and calculations. I just want to go back to her, the one who's clear as crystal." Liushuang slowly opened his eyes. "Right before my eyes, I saw Wan Yiqian here. What are you doing here?" He turned to look at me. "Why are you so nervous? I'm not going to eat you." "How dare you? Last night you asked me to give birth to your child. You kidnapped me here and I'm not allowed to be nervous." He leaned in. "If I did kidnap you, it would be to get you somewhere no one would know about and force you until you gave birth to our child. But I wasn't cruel enough." Frost asked him what he wanted to say. Wan Yiqian also stood up. "Your family Mo Sheng is coming. Ink brush. He's coming for me." Over here a helicopter flies. The gears keep turning, and below a man is waving his hand. Mo Sheng shouted this way. The helicopter stopped and Musin stepped down from it. Liushuang continued, "You said Mo Sheng is coming, so aren't you going to hide me somewhere else? Maybe subconsciously hoping someone would stop me." These words made Driftfrost feel a hint of surprise, and her heart was very conflicted. "Frost, do you know that I really want to take you away without your consent?" She looked away. "Of course I know, because I know you're a good person and you won't do anything to me." Moxon sighed. "I don't want any good guy cards. I'm not a good guy. Never have been. I'm like an idiot who went through all the trouble of capturing you, only to give you back without taking any advantage of it." So Lu Feng asked him, "Why did you suddenly decide to pass me?" Wan Yiqian had a gloomy face, remembering that group of people. "Because I don't think it's worth hurting you for those people. Besides, if I let you go, we can still be friends, right?" Lu Feng laughed. "That's not necessarily true. Last night you even tried to pounce on me. How can I forgive you so easily?" He sat on the edge of the bed. "So what can I do for you to forgive me?" Then Lu Feng said in a serious manner, "Then unless you find a man to pounce on you, we will be clear of each other." "Then what man should I look for?" "You're Mo Sheng." Liushuang thought in his heart, as if these two people hugged together. The eyes are getting misty and perverted. That's not so bad, but I'll let him do his job. Liushuang covered his face with joy, not knowing that Wan Yiqian will one day snatch you away from Mo Sheng's injury. The servant came in hurriedly. The entrance to the villa was surrounded by people, and the man at the head said that he wanted you to return the man, and said that if you didn't, don't blame him for it's Mo Sheng. But Wan Qian says it's not him. "Didn't you say he was coming?" Wan Yiqian held up his finger, but he wasn't the one blocking the doorway. "And here at the gate, a bunch of people are here. It's Mo Qingli who's blocking the door here. This guy Inkbrush asked me to carry the thunder for him here. Where did he run away by himself? So Musin has come round this way. It's around here. I can sense Liushuang." Musin leaps up and climbs up. When he looked inside the window, he froze for a moment. Inside, Wan Yiqian is holding Liushuang without moving. Mo Sheng immediately became angry and had a gloomy face. Liushuang then asked Wan Yiqian, "You suddenly this is what to do, is not already going to let me go. Do not move, as long as a moment, and he seemed to know that Mo Sheng is watching. Mo Sheng looked at them both and didn't move a muscle, and Wan Yiqian put up his middle finger, pointing specifically at Mo Sheng to see. What's wrong? There seems to be a sound outside the window. Nothing. It's your illusion. Mo Sheng gritted his teeth in anger. The people down there and so on found him too, and Mo Sheng looked on. Dark 2 is here too. Tell the young master to be careful. Mo Sheng leaps forward and lands firmly on the ground, facing the crowd's siege. He didn't panic at all. His face is particularly calm. Watching Mo Sheng jump down, the guards immediately touched their guns and prepared to counterattack. But Mo Sheng is no vegetarian, and casually kicked, grabbing the guard's hand, ready to wrestle his gun away from him. But what was in his hand was not a gun, it was a jet. Dark 2 shouted for the young lord, thinking he would be in danger, but what the other guards were holding were jets. Liushuang heard a noise. There's a sound downstairs. Is Mo Sheng here? I came to the window to find out what was going on. As a result, he saw Mo Sheng's appearance, holding back his laughter. Looking at the young master's appearance, Dark 2 didn't know what to do. Aren't you mad at me for screwing Mo Sheng? No, I'm not. I'd love to screw Mo Sheng when I see how cold and superior he is. To be honest, until now I wanted to take you away from here, to a place where no one could find you. Wanchi's reached out and tried to touch her, but she blocked it. We said we'd be friends. Don't make me hate you. Wang Yiqian looked at Yun Liushuang in silence. Mo Sheng was furious and kicked the door open. With a serious face, he spoke to Wang Kenken, letting go of her, or else, with his hand in his pocket. Don't. Mo Sheng, don't worry. I'm fine. Liushuang hurriedly walked towards Mo Sheng, while Wang Yiqian on the side still said, this person is so scary. You'd better come with me. What if he kills you one day? Quicksilver hurriedly stops him. You don't play at times like this. Mo Sheng instantly moved in front of Wang Yiqian, a punch to his waist. Then he took Liushuang's hand and left, but Liushuang said that he had hit him too hard, leaving Wang Yiqian alone. The two of them walk out the door. Mo Sheng patted her shoulder. What's wrong? Where did you get hurt? How is the injury now? It's fine. It's been treated. It's fine if you move gently. Mo Sheng sighed as he looked at the woman in front of him and then gently rubbed her head. I'll be more careful next time. Liushuang then smelled Mo Sheng's body. The smell of pain on you is so strong. Mo Sheng also responded, it's not because of you. Holding Liushuang ready to leave. Aren't you a clean freak? Don't you need to take a shower here and change your clothes? Shut up. I'm going to take you out of here right now. Wang Yiqian crouched down. A smile escaped his lips. The servant said, young master, you don't have to smile if you don't want to. If you don't laugh, do you want to cry? Mo Sheng watched the two walk over. Her mouth wanted to laugh but was held back. Mo Sheng slowly put down the flowing frost. A look of eyes to Mo Sheng. You dare to laugh. You're dead. I don't dare. Mo Sheng waved his hand. I'll go and drive the car for you guys. Afterwards, they all left the Wanchi house. The two of them sat in the back. So Mo Sheng asked her, show me the wound. Liushuang refused in embarrassment. The wound is on the waist, it's better not to. What are you afraid of? Your whole body is mine, and Drift Frost will say you're flirting. Mo Sheng left the car to listen to the dialogue between the two. Mo Sheng pounced on her. I do not need to flirt with you. Not flirting. That's hooliganism. As a result, the two disappeared from Mo Sheng's eyes. Mo Sheng looked at the wound on Liushuang's waist and asked her if it hurt. Drift Frost was shy and red. It didn't hurt too much anymore. Mo Sheng asked her when she was shot and how she felt. I didn't really feel anything. I was stealthy and looking for a chance to sneak out, but I didn't think Simon would shoot indiscriminately. Mo Sheng immediately yelled, I didn't expect. A sentence I didn't expect you almost put your life in. And she was scared backward. She'll just have to give in. Sorry to worry you. Am I so untrustworthy that you'd rather go yourself than inform my people? Liushuang immediately waved her hand. No, I'm just afraid that something might go wrong. Mo Sheng moved closer to her and spoke sternly. Listen, Yun Liushuang, you are my person. Even you are not qualified to hurt yourself. She had to speak even when she was pinched in the face. You're obviously worried about me. How can you say things that are so unreasonable? I want you to promise me that you'll listen to me in everything and tell me before you do anything, so I won't be an answering machine, and don't talk so seriously now that you're like a color palette. Liushuang snickered, and Mo Sheng was helpless. Then the two of them made good, and Mo Sheng took off his coat. It's all because of you. Liushuang covered his mouth. Okay, don't be angry. Actually, you're quite cute like this. You've always disobeyed me. Things go wrong when I'm not around and I have no way to punish you. My men can't keep an eye on you and it's useless to punish them. I'm angry at myself for being so powerless. This is the first time that Mo Sheng has spoken truthfully to me about his feelings. Isn't this a sign that he's starting to open up to me? She reached out and tried to touch the man in front of her, and Mo Sheng turned his head and said with an expressionless face, "In order to avoid any more incidents of this kind, I'm going to lock you up completely." Liushuang still wanted to ask him. He grabbed his head and pinched it. Lu Feng then slowly closed his eyes and passed out, collapsed into Mo Sheng's lap. Mo Sheng also said, "It's for your own good." By the time Driftfrost woke up the next day, sleeping so comfortably, she lay alone in bed, looking off to the side again. There seemed to be someone there. Mo Sheng is standing here waiting for her to wake up. She sat up and realized that something seemed to be on her feet, a chain to tie his feet. When she opened the quilt, she found the chain attached to the other side. What was this for? And Mo Sheng also noticed that Liushuang had woken up at this time and turned his head. Liushuang pointed to the chain on his feet. "What kind of love game are you playing? Open it for me quickly." Mo Sheng leaned in and said, "That's just a tool to make you more obedient." "What do you mean? How long do I have to keep this on?" "Just keep it on so you don't go out of my sight, so you'll always be safe." Lu Feng was furious. "You want to lock me up for the rest of my life? If you were, would you be happy to have someone to keep you on a leash like this?" As a result, Mo Sheng said, "I'm Mo Sheng. No one can restrict my freedom." She was trembling with anger, pointing at Mo Sheng. "You even justified the double standard. You never put yourself in other people's shoes." Mo Sheng caught her hand, kissing this hand. "So have you thought about me? You're so disobedient. You won't listen to anything I say. What can I do? You run away from me time and time again. Time and time again you're in danger. How long do you want me to worry? I don't want to lose you." Quicksilver listened to the words, thinking about it that way. I really never bothered to think about his moods because he seemed so dominant and so tough. But underneath it all, he's worried about me. Quicksilver then said, scratched his head somewhat awkwardly. "It was my fault." As an admission of fault, "You just locked me up." Mo Sheng was a bit at a loss for words. What was wrong with him? Just pinch her chin. What's the point of being so good all of a sudden? Are you trying to pull some kind of stunt again? I didn't. I guess my reputation is so bad that he doesn't believe me. Dodge Mo Sheng's hand. He apologized sincerely this time. "Don't be ungrateful. This time I'll play the game of imprisonment with you. I promise I won't run away. And in my mind I can always turn into a fox and slip away." But Mo Sheng doesn't seem to believe her anymore. "So guess if I still believe you or not. You're not happy. Don't smile so coldly all the time. It's so irritating." She was manipulating Mo Sheng's mouth. "A little more happy smile. That's better. There are very few things in this world that make me happy anymore. Since my mother." At this time, Liushuang understandably went forward and hugged Mo Sheng. "Don't worry. Now." Listening to her, Mo Sheng asked about her. "What would happen with you?" Lu Feng smiled brightly. "I'll make you smile." "Oh, what are you going to do?" Driftfrost leaned in close to him, and guess what? Then he grabbed Mo Sheng's armpit and cackled, but Mo Sheng doesn't seem to be smiling. "What are you doing?" Instantly Driftfrost got frustrated inside. "I want to make you laugh. Don't you have any tickling flesh? But since I was a kid, only people wanted to make me hurt. No one ever wanted to make me laugh. I don't have that kind of thing." "What exactly did you go through when you were a child?" Drifter asked him curiously, and then asked about the others. "Speaking of which, how is Xianyuan Hang with Simon?" "Xianyuan Hang has disappeared. At that time, all the attention was focused on finding you. He took the opportunity to escape, but he lost almost all of his assets in the Xianyuan family, so he must not be able to play any tricks. And Simon, he walked across the bridge of sighs." Driftfrost was also shocked for a moment. It sounded worse than dead. "The mobile phone is ringing. Ring, ring, ring." Mo Sheng picked up the phone. The other side of the phone said, "Demon, long time no see. I heard you came to country." Mo Sheng immediately became stern. "Are you spying on me?" "It's just news from Wanchikian. Come out for a drink. There's something I need to ask you." Mo Sheng still want to refuse, was countered, but the master has explained us. The master brother and sister should support each other to help O. All he could do was sigh, and Quicksilver got curious. Master's brother, and he had a master's brother. "I'll see you there." Finally, in an hour, the usual place, Lu Feng asked him, "Who called you? What's the matter?" Mo Sheng didn't answer and got up, ready to leave the place. "Wait, you'll just let me keep wearing this thing." He turned his head sideways and said indifferently to continue. Just slam the door. Liushuang had no choice but to snort coldly. Just come and put it here. Inside sat a man with long red hair, and the others were bustling about talking, and the long red-haired man was unmoved, savoring his red wine. The girls on the side looked at the man. Wow! So handsome. They all blushed. Seems to have sensed something. Mo Sheng walked over and called out the man's name. Charles. He smiled and responded. You're finally here, elder brother.